be chaotic. We'll say that much. So we're doing non-MCU Marvel movies this week. So we had to go and revisit some movies. And I think with that being said, I don't want to say too much. We should introduce our guests.
We should. So we have joining us from the PJ Campbell Network. It's the man himself, PJ Campbell. How are you?
That good.
Already drinking. That's good.
Well, that's where we're at right now. It's going to be a great day. Can't wait.
Also from the PJ Campbell Network, we have Mr. Evan Degraff. How are you?
You know, fun facts. Before we got onto the stream, I ended up spilling wine on myself, but because this shirt is so brilliant, you can't see it anymore on camera. So I have you all fooled. Did I spill wine? Did I not? Put it in the comments below. I'm really glad to be here because there are some real stoinkers and there is some actually fantastic masterclass film. And I really hope Jacob doesn't shit talk some of them. So
those are some high hopes.
High hopes. We're also joined by filmmaker Pat Hogue. How are you today?
Evan.
Hi.
I'm disappointed in you.
Why? Before.
No reason. We'll find out throughout this fun times, this totally fun, non-controversial times where opinions aren't going to be upsetting anyone else. This is going to be a blast. This is going to be great. Yeah, doing this whole revisit of these movies. Boy, howdy.
And we are, of course, also joined by Robert and Vanessa from Late to the Party. How are you guys?
Hello there. He's already been drinking.
Yeah, joining PJ in the same sentiment.
My friend.
I did not prep for this whatsoever. No clue what movies are even on the list. We're just going to spitball it and figure out who's going to make it to the end. And that's what I'm excited
that
for.
Way.
Wild card.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I get it.
You got Pat here. So everybody watch Vimeo. Go check it out, Pat.
Thank you.
Well, we have two new guests to the show this week. We didn't have Pat Hogue or Robert on camera last week, so this will be interesting to see how they adapt to being thrown into the fire of this one.
Yes, it will be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Are we ready to kick this off?
So before we do, I just want to do some quick housekeeping, guys.
All right, let's do it.
Down below, we do have our donation link. I'm going to put it in the chat today. That is our Streamlabs donation link. If you are the top donor for the month of April and every month going forward, you will be able to pick one of the brackets that we do moving forward. So that will currently Pat is the top donor with $25. So thank you very much for that, Pat.
You're going to regret letting Pat.
Oh yeah, I know I am. I'm going to so regret that. But
can't wait.
I want to do the top 10 characters from the Rocketeer. Can we not?
Yes.
All in. I'm in.
I think that's exactly what has to happen now.
Number one, Nelly Sinclair.
Please.
Well,
vote him.
With that being said, I think it is time
All right.
that we do this and we move on to the bracket with our first pick. We have
Here we go.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse versus Elektra. Pat, I'm going to start with you. Sorry, PJ, I'm going to start with you. Where are we going?
I mean, this isn't a question. Elektra's a fucking garbage fire. It's obviously Spider-Verse.
Evan Degraff, where are we going?
It's literally... It's Elektra. I'm just kidding. It's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Taylor, what are you going for?
I mean, look, as much as I adore Jennifer Garner, I cannot in good conscience bring myself to not pick Into the Spider-Verse.
Vanessa, where are we going?
We're going Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. No brainer.
Robert?
So yeah, Elektra definitely has a very intricate history that I really wish was done in terms of the character.
Oh, okay.
In terms of the character. The movie itself, Jennifer Garner at the height of wherever she was going. I mean, 13 going on 30 is fantabulous. But with Elektra and just Daredevil, it kind of like limped forward. You got a broken leg, but now you walk with a limp. That's what Elektra was kind of carrying on. But yeah, Spider-Verse. I mean, come on. It's amazing.
Guys, we started this off unanimously. I just want to say this is not going to continue.
No, it's not. Hogue?
I'm gonna have some controversial opinions today. This isn't one of them. It's Into the Spider-Verse.
All right, please go off on your Elektra tangent. I'm ready.
And with that, the first winner is obviously Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with a 7-0 lead. All right, let's move on to our next one. Oh, we have actually somewhat of a slightly interesting one. X-Men Apocalypse versus Venom.
Taylor,
This is a good one.
Do you really want to start with me?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, X-Men Apocalypse, because I refuse to watch Venom for any reason whatsoever. You could literally be torturing me and I would not watch Venom.
All right. Hogue, let's go to you.
Venom has Tom Hardy in a lobster tank eating lobsters. I'm going Venom. Apocalypse sucks.
Evan, let's
and it
go
has
to you.
Oscar Isaac. He's a darling.
All right. We are Venom.
Oh, God. All right. Pat, let's go to you.
I mean, look, neither of these are very good, but Tom Hardy in a lobster tank wins every time with this. If you're putting it on Apocalypse, of all things, Apocalypse made me actually actively hate the X-Men franchise again, so we're going Venom.
Wow. Robert, where are we going?
X-Men Apocalypse definitely was the trajectory in which I feel like the X-Men series originally was going towards, which is garbage. And the Apocalypse film itself just bored me to tears. I was not engaged whatsoever, beginning to hate everybody in that movie. Everybody was completely miscast. And with Venom, the only one that I feel like was miscast and just the story wasn't utilized properly was Riz Ahmed. Love Riz Ahmed. I think he's fantastic. But in that movie, I felt no threat, really. And so it didn't do much for Venom to try and overcome. But yeah, it's Venom.
All right, Vanessa.
Yeah, I mean, coming off of the heels of Days of Future Past and then going into X-Men Apocalypse, it just didn't, it fell flat, very much so. And just like Pat said, you know, it has Oscar Isaacs, who's amazing, but he felt very flat in that movie. And I couldn't take him seriously at all during that whole time. I was more invested in Venom when I watched Venom, which I didn't think I was going to be. So my vote is for Venom.
All right. It's already done at this point, but I would have voted for X-Men Apocalypse. I hated Venom with a passion. I really, really did not like that movie at all. X-Men Apocalypse, there's enough in there for me to have some fun with. But I'm going.
Like I'll take watching Fassbender and Oscar Isaac and that cast in a horrible movie before I'll ever watch Venom in my life. So you're welcome, comments. Have fun with that one.
All right, let's move on to our next one. We have X-Men versus Dark Phoenix. I am going to start with Pat because I know you have interesting Dark Phoenix thoughts.
Me?
Yeah, Pat.
This is a tough one because I'm a big defender of Dark Phoenix. I actually think with the pieces they had in place, and especially what they were coming off of Apocalypse, they did the best they could. It's still kind of a cookie cutter like plot with things we saw coming, but it's a really pretty movie. It's I think Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy are great in it, but Chastain's kind of wasted. The first X-Men's kind of iconic. I don't think it holds up as well as everyone else thinks it does. But it has Hugh Jackman, and that's not. And a lot of these movies are going to have that kind of push to it. But I'm going to say X-Men just because it just has that extra little like iconic push to it.
All right, Taylor.
Yeah. Look, I really like Dark Phoenix. I'm once again probably going to be in the very unpopular crowd here. Like, hate Venom, won't watch it. I really had a lot of fun with Dark Phoenix, so I'm already canceled for this bracket. Like, I already know that. That's fine. I mean, this movie Dark Phoenix wasn't great by any means, but I had enough fun with it where I was willing to just go, you know, this was a fun time. I liked seeing the characters, and I didn't really have expectations going into it because everyone said how awful it was going to be. X-Men obviously has the iconic push to it, But the X-Men movies weren't really a big thing for me as a kid. Like I discovered them when I got older.
Yeah.
So it has less of an iconic nostalgia kind of thing for me. So I'm going to say Dark Phoenix.
All right. Vanessa, I'm going to go to you.
So I am gonna probably go towards more X-Men versus Dark Phoenix, just because of the way that they told the story in Dark Phoenix. I wanted it to go in a different direction. That's my fault. But I remember watching X-Men in theaters when I was a kid and just kind of enjoying myself, and the fact that you had, iconic actors playing these characters that you've known from, the cartoon and from the comic books, and then coming to life. It was just a fun experience. So I'm going to go X-Men.
All right. Robert.
The problem with Dark Phoenix is that there were movies already done on that story before it. And of course, Ratner shit the bed. So when it came to another Dark Phoenix down the line, another thing that screwed it up was the fact that they made Captain Marvel and released it before Dark Phoenix came out. They couldn't go all in when it came into like Secret Wars or anything like that. But when it came to X-Men, there wasn't anything really done at the time like that in terms of live action other than the cartoon. I'd say what I love most about Dark Phoenix, the score is amazing. Hans Zimmer, so good. What I hate most about X-Men is the score. Felt nothing like what I was hoping for, but then again, ruined because of what came before it, which was the cartoon. So with that in mind, I don't really care too much for the first X-Men movie, but I liked it a lot more than I liked Dark Phoenix. So X-Men.
All right. Evan, where are we going?
X-Men was groundbreaking for its time. Dark Phoenix just felt like another comic book movie. So for that reason alone, we're going to X-Men.
And PJ.
Yeah, I mean, X-Men Dark Phoenix doesn't exist without X-Men 2000. And that movie broke so much ground for comic book movies. Like, it hasn't aged spectacularly. Like, I think a lot of the X-Men films are actually better, but it's no question for me, it's X-Men.
All right. I'd also be going to X-Men. I think X-Men's just a slightly better film than Dark Phoenix, because I also did have some fun with Dark Phoenix. All right. X-Men moves on. Let's move on to our next one. Fantastic Four, the 2005 original version, or X-Men First Class. Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
No, you're not starting
All
with
right.
me. Absolutely not.
PJ, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, for me, it's First Class. I think First Class single-handedly saved the X-Men franchise from certain doom, coming off of what Ratner and Origins had basically done to the series. There was no denying what was going into that film. We were all expecting to hate it. Do you guys remember the marketing material? Like, we were all destined to go after that movie. And when we walked out, it was like, holy shit, that was an X-Men movie, and I was excited to have it. Fassbender and McAvoy ended up becoming arguably even better in those roles than McKellen and Stewart ever did. Like, they are so good. And that's the one thing that all of those films, including Dark Phoenix, actually had, was those two. They could sleepwalk through those movies and they're actually awesome in it. So it's First Class. It's not even a question.
And Evan, where are we going?
We have what I would say is one of the coolest scenes in comic book history, with the Cuba scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Fantastic Four 2005, which I forget about those movies for good reason. So we're going to go First Class.
All right. Vanessa.
See, I will sit here and say that I did had fun with Fantastic Four when I watched it. I thought that, Dr. Doom coming into this was a great villain in my opinion, but it's still a pretty bad movie. And I'm going to go X-Men First Class, because X-Men First Class was actually the first time after, coming back from what we've seen from X2 and X-Men, that I was like, okay, now I could get behind these characters once more. And I was excited to see what they were going to go for after X-Men First Class. So it's X-Men First Class.
All right. And Robert?
Fantastic Four was top 40 comic book movies. I mean, it did well back then. Mm-hmm. People generally liked it. It was entertaining. There was comedic moments. There was no edge to it. It was safe, and it was cool. And at the same time, though, it just does not hold up like some of the other ones that have come out before it. And X-Men First Class, we'll get into that. But yeah, it's X-Men First Class.
All right. And Hogue?
And Fantastic Four is a time capsule of a movie. It very much fits the era that it's in. That's where you get your Daredevils, Elektras but you can see it start to move towards kind of where Marvel eventually got to, of like, you know, comic accurate suits. Like, was all the kind of Doctor Doom and character stuff really mishandled? Weirdly, like, I think they were still afraid to like kind of really get into actual origins, but X-Men First Class, I don't think gets enough credit for all of the groundbreaking stuff it did. The idea of recasting Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen seemed like an impossibility, and then James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender kind of just like shut that all down in like a scene in that movie. It really set the template more than I think a lot of the early MCU movies, to set kind of like what those movies should feel like, and kind of how do you universe build by just telling good individual stories. So it's X-Men First Class. Like, we'll get into it more.
All right. I'm also going First Class. I think this is one of the best comic book movies made, period. I love First Class so much. And Fantastic Four, it's fine for me. I don't know, those movies just never really worked for me, but yeah, First Class is a phenomenal film.
This is why I wanted to go last, because it's Fantastic Four. So that's why I wanted to go last, so that everyone else could get out their X-Men First Class love and I'll do all that, and then I could be like, actually, Fantastic Four 2005.
Taylor, put down the knife. Oh my gosh. Jeez.
You don't have to. If you think this is me with a knife, you're in for some fun later.
I'm scared. I'm scared.
You should do very much.
All right, let's
But the big follow-up, though, I'm really curious. Why? Like, I want to know, what was your love for in terms of betterment, in terms of the two? Like, I'm curious.
I don't necessarily think Fantastic Four is a better movie. I think X-Men First Class has a lot of problems that people don't want to address, that I don't really want to get into on this stream because it's a delicate conversation. I love X-Men First Class a lot. I think it did great things for the X-Men property in terms of films going forward. They cast a lot of great people, but they also made a lot of really stupid decisions in that movie that they can't fix later.
So it was more the demerits than it was like the positives. Okay, I get it.
So to me, like, Fantastic Four has that 2005 Fantastic Four has the nostalgia for me that X-Men has for you guys. That first X-Men movie, I have that for Fantastic Four 2005. So that's just like, to me, I have a lot of problems with Fantastic Four as a team. Like, in general, their group dynamics I have a lot of issues with, but I have a lot of love for that movie because it came around at the right time in my life.
And
Makes
also
sense.
And Chris Evans, come on, Jesus.
I agree. One of the top points. Also, Michael Chiklis' thing.
Yep.
all right, let's break PJ's heart.
Oh, finally, it's not my turn to be brokenhearted. Let's go.
X-Men Days of Future Past versus Daredevil. Evan, let's start with you.
Dude, blind Ben Affleck might be one of the worst scenes I've ever seen. Days of Future Past is one of the best fast-paced comic book movies that I think will ever come out. The movie doesn't stop. It just goes. And you're never bored. You're always on the edge of your seat. And the way how they deal with time travel is absolutely brilliant. Fucking Days of Future Past all the way.
Hogue?
I'm not going to bash on Daredevil. I'm not going to, take out its knees like Ben Affleck at the end of Daredevil when he kicks, Kingpin and he breaks his knees. Yeah, that was a cool move. But it is kind of indefensible when we have a TV series that is as good as it is with Daredevil, and the movie kind of like is nothing in comparison. Also, Days of Future Past really is X-Men copying Marvel, but specifically of the Avengers in such an effective way by doing like carrying off the momentum of First Class and the nostalgia for the original. It's a very lightning in a bottle movie that I think not even they were ready for how much success it was going to be. So I'm going to go with Days of Future Past.
Taylor.
Okay. I am going to end up going with Days of Future Past, but I do want to say Daredevil has one of, I think, my favorite moments of all time. I was sitting there like they are literally spoon feeding me exactly what I wanted here, where you get a training montage of Elektra to Evanescence. How much better can you get than Jennifer Garner doing a training sequence to an Evanescence song? That is like a time capsule in a bottle. That is, I was sitting there going, am I having a stroke? Because this is, wow, I love every second.
Put on Daredevil. Who put it on? She's having a stroke. Oh my gosh.
All right. Robert, where are we going?
So again, Daredevil is fitting in that same timeline where Elektra and Fantastic Four and a lot of them came out, and I just felt like they weren't really pushing the bar, pretty generic. So for Daredevil, like Taylor with the previous, it's more of like the demerits for me. It is easy to say as an answer, yes, it's Days of Future Past. But for me, like, I wasn't so big on Days of Future Past like a lot of people were. And it's just partly because I've seen it one time and it wasn't enough to get me to go back. So for that, the demerits are what dropped Daredevil under, because there are some things that I like about it that I have fun with. First time we're getting Ben Affleck as a superhero. That's pretty badass, even though it wasn't executed properly. But yeah, it's going to end up being Days of Future Past because I think that one was just at a higher level than where Daredevil was shooting for.
I do want to say that I agree with Robert. That's kind of where I'm at as well with Days of Future Past. Like, I liked it, only saw it once, and then everyone was like, this is the best movie ever. And I was like, oh, yes, it was. Like, and I'm not saying it's bad. Like, it's not a bad movie, but I watched it once and went, that was cool. Like, I love that we got the combination of the cast, and we got a great cast, and it was a fun, fast-paced story, but it's never been like one that I go, like, I haven't watched it again. Even when we did our rewatch for this show, I wasn't really like, I have to rewatch it.
Vanessa.
I will say Days of Future Past Rogue cut. I love the Rogue cut that they did for it. I thought that it streamlined the characters a little more, and you get a little bit of Rogue more so than when they cut her out of the original one. Daredevil is fine. I wasn't too like gung ho on, you know, Ben Affleck playing Ghost Superhero though. Like I couldn't get it. Like when I watched it when it came out, and I was like, okay, but yeah. So that's why my vote is for Days of Future Past.
I think he fit better as Daredevil than he did as Batman, though. But
yeah,
I'm also going Days of Future Past, one of the best comic book movies made. I absolutely love this movie, and it is absolutely fantastic.
Do you want to talk about why it means that much? Like, why you think it's one of the best ones ever made?
Yeah, I think like the way that it I think Hogue kind of summed it up perfectly. Like it managed to actually tell this incredibly what on paper looks an extremely complicated and complex story, and streamline it to a way where it's very understandable and very easy for an audience to pick up without being confused. And I think that it works well on so many levels, and it's just a lot of fun. All right, Pat, where are we going?
You know, you set this up like it was going to be some kind of no-brainer that I was going to be all upset, but like Daredevil's only really good if you have the director's cut. If we're going strictly off of the theatrical cuts of these movies, there's no comparison that Days of Future Past is clearly the better film. I mean, Days of Future Past even has its own alternate cut, to Vanessa's point, with the Rogue cut. And the Rogue cut fixes my, like, one major issue with the film is that the Sentinels actually don't make any fucking sense within the sense of the movie, because there's no way that them having Mystique's power would give them other mutants' powers. That's not what Mystique does. So the Rogue cut fixes that, but the movie, even with that problem, is still much better than the theatrical cut of Daredevil, where Daredevil was totally gutted by a studio that saw Spider-Man the summer before and went, our R-rated superhero movie should be PG-13 and should be made for teenagers. And it totally sank that film. So it's not even a question for me. Like, and to the point that we also have a TV show of Daredevil that is excellent. I can't, in good faith, vote against Days of Future Past in that.
I was just more mentioning the fact that, you know, earlier this week you were like, I'm going to get Daredevil to the final, and I was like,
I would never actually do that.
I just also want to say I haven't actually been doing this, and I apologize. The chat have pretty much voted unanimously with us so far. So Spider-Man, Venom, X-Men, First Class, and this right now, Days of Future Past. I'm very curious where this next one's going to go, because we have one that could actually be a bit of a debate. We have we have the original Hulk and Blade 2. I am going to start with Evan. Where are you going?
Ang Lee's Hulk. Ang Lee's Hulk.
Stop it.
Never will I see a film that stretches its boundaries into what it thinks it can do, and sometimes it doesn't do well, but it thinks it can do, and it does it. It's fucking Ang Lee making a Hulk movie. You can't be mad.
Can I just say this is I think the only bracket where both films are directed by two Oscar-winning directors. So, Hogue, where are you landing?
This is a tough one. Because I agree with Evan. I do. I think Hulk gets bashed too much, ironically. In that it's really wrestling with a lot of like mature ideas and is trying to do it through the lens of a comic book movie more than any comic book movie ever has. It really takes that style. It really takes those contemplative, dark aspects of Bruce Banner and goes further than any really standalone comic book movie we've seen. It's artistic. The ending is very just kind of like experiential of this fight with Cloud Nick Nolte and Hulk in the sky. It's indescribable, and like it's kind of austere and really beautiful, like to think about. But Blade 2's got like vampires and like Ron Perlman, and like he's got the big old blade, and it's Guillermo del Toro. He's got the Bath of Blood. I'm gonna make it interesting though. I'm gonna say Hulk.
Can I go?
All right. Robert, I'm going to go to you, just because I know what I'm going to vote for, so I'm curious.
I just want to yell at Hogue.
Give him some time to think about what he's going to yell at.
So theatrical experiences between the two, I was again disengaged and bored to tears during Hulk. The whole comic book aspect of transitions, I get it, but it just felt so on the damn nose to where I was like not in it when it came to Hulk. When I watched Blade 2, holy shit, I had a hell of a time watching it in the theaters. I've watched it many times since. And as it moves forward, as it should, I'll talk about it a little bit more, but I'll take that gamble that it'll move forward. But I love Blade 2. Yeah, Hulk is out.
All right, Vanessa.
Okay, so both of these movies are really interesting, and they come at a time too where like comic books were fairly like starting to like pick up momentum. But my vote is going to go for Blade 2 because I think that Guillermo del Toro just took that movie and he made it like his love child, essentially. And I am all for Blade 2. With the Hulk, just that whole scene of Josh Lucas, when the blast happens and then the blast is like that. I had to rewind it because I was like, wait, what? What is that going? What's happening? But yeah, so I'm going Blade 2.
Can I go next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
If you vote for Hulk, you're voting for that scene.
I watched Blade and Blade 2 for the first time this past week. So there were a couple that I needed to watch before we did this show that I just hadn't watched because I think they were just a little before my time in terms of just when I was starting to watch these kind of movies. And Blade, I was kind of bored, to be honest. It felt like there was an interesting idea, but they didn't know what to do with it. And then Blade 2 comes around and you give it to Guillermo del Toro and it's like, oh, so when it's in the hands of a director that knows what he's doing and knows how to make an interesting, engaging, fun, beautiful movie, I'm super interested in this. And I mean, Hulk is fine. So we're going Blade 2 because it was so much fun. Like vampires, Guillermo del Toro, like kicking ass. Come on.
All right, Pat, give it the knockout blow.
Holy fuck. No matter how many big words you say, Hogue, there is
Evan, hold my hand.
About Hulk that is good. That was the first film that broke my fucking heart walking out of it. It does not matter how many words out of a fucking thesaurus that you look at that is going to turn around the absolute fucking train wreck that movie is in every sense of the fucking word.
Evan, I can't hold on. He's hurting me too.
Jesus Christ. I cannot believe this is a conversation. Blade 2 all the way.
Awesome. Yeah, I look.
Fuck you, PJ.
So I'm in the same boat as Pat. Hulk is the first movie I can actively remember walking out actually being disappointed in, because I just do not think that is a good movie at all. It has not aged well. I get what Ang Lee was going for with it. I get that he's trying to make this a more artistic film with the Hulk, and it just doesn't work. It's boring and it's dull, and that's my problem with it. And I'd be going Blade 2, even though I'm not the biggest fan of that movie either.
Ooh,
So-
Yeah,
get
because
into
you're a
it.
Del Toro hater. Del Toro hater.
We'll talk about that. Don't worry.
Don't get me wrong. And the funny thing is, I'm a Del Toro hater, yet he has made a complete masterpiece in Shape of Water. All right, let's move on. Oh, this one could get very interesting.
Fuck some fish.
Shake up for that.
We could see Hogue have a aneurysm. The Amazing Spider-Man versus X-Men: The Last Stand.
Can I just start?
Yeah, Pat, PJ, let's start with you.
So to the point of Hulk being like a movie that broke my heart, X-Men 3 was the first time I actively walked out of the theater and I thought nerds were going to burn the fucking place to the ground. I remember everyone coming off X2. We were so excited for what Singer had set up, and Brett Ratner shows up and just completely obliterates the Dark Phoenix storyline in every conceivable way. There's way too much shit happening in that movie. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination. Whereas The Amazing Spider-Man, coming off of Spider-Man 3, which was already not very beloved, like it was already very divisive, Sam Raimi had kind of shit the bed because of Sony. And so The Amazing Spider-Man, for all its faults, actually started to write the course of the franchise, even for a film, for me, and had a better cast version of Spider-Man, which was my big thing, is I've never really liked Tobey Maguire in the role. So The Amazing Spider-Man, for that and the Gwen Stacy stuff alone, it takes it over for me. I just can't not.
I'm going to go. I'm in the same agreement with you. There's a lot of issues that I have with The Amazing Spider-Man that I kind of don't remember having the first time I watched it, because I rewatched it. I rewatched all the Spider-Man movies literally last week. And for the longest time, I always said, Amazing Spider-Man's my favorite Spider-Man movie outside of the MCU ones, because I think it told the story better. And I'm surprised at how many issues I actually have with that movie. That being said, X-Men Last Stand is an absolute train wreck of a film that has barely any redeemable qualities, if any at all. I think it is easily it's one of the worst X-Men movies outside of possibly Wolverine. And that's whereas in Amazing Spider-Man is not a great movie, but it's at least not an absolute train wreck.
I mean, I'm just gonna continue rolling this train with those comments. I hadn't rewatched The Amazing Spider-Man since I saw it the first time until we watched it last week. Just because it's another one of those movies where I walked out going, yeah, it was fun, and then didn't have the desire, even after the first time, to rewatch it again, really, because I remember liking it enough, but not enough to be like, yeah, this is great. So when we rewatched it, I was really excited by the chemistry between Peter and Gwen Stacy. Like, that definitely holds up for me because Emma and Andrew had such great chemistry always. And that was a great part of that story. But there were a lot of story elements rewatching it that I didn't even remember had happened. And I went, oh, that's why I blocked this out. There were just some poor decisions that could have really enhanced the movie to elevate it to a really great movie, which then would have been obliterated by the sequel, so it didn't really matter, I guess, anyway. But I don't even know how you can try to compare this and go, it's worse than the movie that literally obliterated everything that X-Men was building towards being a great movie. And like PJ said, the fact that things didn't get burned to the ground after that movie was just, at least out of The Amazing Spider-Man, we got, once again, like PJ said, a better Spider-Man, because I'm also on the train that Tobey Maguire was wildly miscast, but there are things that I do love about those movies. So that's where I stand with that.
All right, Hogue, where are you going?
Evan, hold your thoughts. We'll get to you. You just sit
I have
down.
a whole bit happening right here.
This is like choosing between which child disappointed me more. The one that became the meth addict or the one that robbed the bank. I will not have this speaking against Tobey Maguire, our Lord and Savior, and the best Spider-Man. And
okay,
as much as I
Okay.
don't like The Last Stand, as much as it makes fatal flaws, and as much it really did kind of put the X-Men franchise back on its heels, it's got this really charming guy in it named Hugh Jackman, who's playing this really cool character named Wolverine, and I like that. Andrew Garfield and like his whole like cool kid skater bro, like I'm Spider-Man, but like it's fine, and everything surrounding him feels so cynical to me, and that movie feels like Sony making a Spider-Man movie to keep the rights. That's it. And there are good moments between him and Emma Stone. I like Dennis Leary. I like Martin Sheen. But that movie truly feels like a like fiber supplement that I just have to swallow and let pass. I really like Tom Holland. I really love Tobey Maguire. That one, just like, whether it's my nostalgia clouding my opinion, I'm going to go X-Men on this one.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Evan, where are we going?
So my Uncle Ben just died. My Aunt May can't pay for anything. Oh, what's your name? Gwen? Nice. Do you want to go out sometime? All right, we'll do that. It's fucking The Amazing Spider-Man, dude. Like, Andrew Garfield,
That wasn't
for
bad.
as
It was
much
pretty good.
shit as people for as much shit as people give him for being emo or whatever in that role, it fucking works. He's so like oddly charming. You're just like, I want to be him. And you don't know why you want to be him, but you still do. So it's Amazing Spider-Man. X-Men: The Last Stand, I completely forgot about. It's such a like forgettable film. So yeah, it's The Amazing Spider-Man.
All right. Vanessa, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues with X-Men Last Stand. I actually don't remember the last time I watched it. I think it was in theaters. And I remember leaving and not even waiting till the end of the credits because I was like, I don't really care for this anymore. And then people are like, oh, yeah, there's something at the credits. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. However, I will say, okay, so I do like The Amazing Spider-Man because I like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I'm not really keen on him as Peter Parker. Like, I didn't really care of the way he portrayed Peter Parker, but as Spider-Man, it was amazing. So that's why, no pun intended, we're going Amazing Spider-Man. And I also will agree with Taylor and PJ that Tobey Maguire was miscast.
All right. Robert, where are you going?
X-Men: The Last Stand only contributes one notable positive to me, and that's I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. I mean, that is the only part where everybody in the theater was like, yeah, like that was cool because I mean, it was taken from the internet and placed into the movie because it was already kind of a known meme going on. But when it came down to trying to do the Phoenix story and just stumbling, they destroy Professor X in the middle of the movie. And I remember the entire audience just going like, what the fuck? Collectively, when it happened, and we're like, okay, well, and the tour moves on. When it comes to Amazing Spider-Man, Rhys Ifans as Dr. Connors.
Yep.
You brought Dr. Connors, you brought the Lizard. We'll get more into it because it's moving forward. My vote is Amazing Spider-Man.
I like this man. I like this man.
Amazing Spider-Man moves forward. So far, the chat, they voted for Blade 2, and they've also voted Amazing Spider-Man. So we've actually kind of been in line with the chat so far. Very overwhelming. There hasn't been anything that's really split anything yet. So it's going to be interesting. All right, this next one, we have Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance versus Deadpool. Evan, I'm going to start with you. I'll be nice.
We already know my thoughts on Nick Cage. It's Deadpool. Like, that's all I'm going to say.
Easy.
All right. Pat, where are you going?
I mean, look, one of these movies is Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. The other one is Deadpool. It's not even a competition. It's Deadpool.
Taylor?
Yeah.
Not even going there.
Dude, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance is such a trash fire waste of a sequel.
Yes,
like,
it
I
is.
know that there's a sequel problem a lot of the time for a lot of franchises and a lot of movies, but like Ghost Rider went, oh, there's a sequel problem? How much can we make that worse? Like, how can we like double the sequel problem and put it in our sequel to just make it like the worst thing I've ever seen? And then they did that.
Hogue.
I feel like I'm going to start conserving my energy for when the Spider-Man battles come up. So I'm just going to say Deadpool and then move on from there. Yeah.
Robert, where are we going?
So yeah, Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. The trailer was better than both movies. Both movies. What is that? Is that me? It's not me. Anyways,
me. Sorry. Be right back.
They're finally coming. They're here to take us. Please.
It's like that freaking thing that takes down Tony Stark by Obadiah and Iron Man. It's all
the like
sort of
the
turning
veins
blue.
come up.
I'm pretty sure Ang Lee triggered that alarm.
Yeah, the trailer for Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance is badass. Like, I really enjoyed it watching it. Better than, in my opinion, both films. Deadpool, man, come on, meta. We'll get into Deadpool a lot more. Very well done. Just the history behind how Deadpool even got to be from where it was to where it eventually ended. So it's Deadpool.
All right, and Vanessa?
It's Deadpool, of course. I will say that when it comes to the Ghost Rider movies, I think that the look that they went with in the second movie, the way he is, like just the CGI that they used for it there was way better than the first movie, which is really disappointing because you would want a better story in the second one. But yeah, it's gonna be Deadpool. It's Ryan Reynolds.
All right. So that officially gets us through because I'm also going Deadpool. We have two. We have two unanimous picks. So Deadpool gets through with all 7, and so did Days of Future Past, and it's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Just to recap, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse beat Elektra. X-Men Apocalypse lost to Venom. X-Men beat Dark Phoenix. Fantastic Four, the 2005, lost to X-Men First Class. X-Men Days of Future Past flogged Daredevil. And Hulk lost to Blade 2. The Amazing Spider-Man beat X-Men The Last Stand. And Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance lost to Deadpool. The chat has definitely been picking Deadpool over Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Let's move on to our next bracket. We have an interesting first one. I'm very curious where everyone's going to land on this one. We could see chaotic energy. Hogue, I'm going to start with you. Logan or Fan Four Stick? Where are you going?
It's Logan. Yeah, it's easy. That's an easy one. Come on. Give me another Hulk versus Blade 2, why don't you?
I'm all for the chaotic energy. Evan?
As much as I love Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, what the fuck were they doing? like honest to God. Like, I just want to know what in their mind they read that script, because we're not going to talk about this movie again, so I'm going to take the time now. Like, I want to know how their agents and them sit down, read the script, and think, this is a good idea. Let's enter a comic book world where Fox is in charge of what we do. No, don't do that. It's gonna be Logan, but God, I'm so sad. Fan 4-6 should have been better.
It should have been a lot better. Robert, where are we going?
The whole situation behind Fan 4-6 to me is a far better film if they would have chronicled that with Josh Trank and the fallout of his brain in his mind. But yeah, it's Logan 100% across the board.
I also can't believe we went back and put Hulk ahead of Blade 2. I can't believe that actually moved on, guys. It was a great decision.
All right.
We had to do it. We had to do it.
Sorry, the house almost burned down. It's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's fine.
So I love him.
Patrick, PJ, you have a very, very, very tough decision. Logan or Fan 4 Stick?
Are you kidding me? It's Logan. With the next question.
And for those asking, yes, this is first versus last seed. Taylor, where are you going?
Okay, first of all, I just want to make sure that the world knows that I made the active decision to never watch Fan 4 Stick in my entire life because I knew that I didn't need that kind of energy in my life. And then when we decided to do this bracket, somebody who I will not name,
Jacob,
was like, we should watch this movie so that you know like what we're talking about. And I was like, I really don't want to do this. And then we did it. And I like tweeted a live thread of like my despair watching this movie. And I just like my brain I think is a little bit broken now because there are just like things. I think the last like 3 lines of Fan Four Stick made me literally want to burn down this whole apartment. Like it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
He's fantastic.
This group
What did you say?
This group of 4 needs a name. It's fantastic. Yes, it is. Are you kidding me? That's literally how you end the movie. Like, and then the wig that they randomly and then not randomly put on poor Sue Storm from one scene to the next. All of a sudden, she's magically dyed her hair like 6 times. I literally could go on a whole rant because this is so fresh in my mind and I wish that it was not there. Like I am scarred for life from the second half of this movie. I will clarify. The second half of that movie broke my entire brain. So we're going with Logan. If that wasn't clear. Just want to make that clear.
Oh.
So 1 pick for Fan Four Stick. All right. Vanessa, where are you going?
I'm going to be the black sheep of this group.
She loves Fantastic Four. No,
I'm just kidding. It's Logan. It's going to Logan.
I was like, damn, I just like ranted to Vanessa's face about her favorite movie.
No, I couldn't even get through this movie, so I actually haven't even finished Fan Four Stick. I was watching and I'm like, what am I watching? Like,
it's okay, Vanessa. I literally just reenacted the last scene for you, so now you've seen the ending.
I feel like I already saw it now because of you, so thank you. I don't need to go
You're
back.
welcome.
Rewatch.
I've actually never seen it. I don't have
Robert,
to.
don't do it. Don't do it. Please.
So bad.
So, Robert, I'm guessing you're also going to go Logan.
Well, I already went Logan.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm also going Logan because, yeah, no question whatsoever. And we will talk about Logan a bit later.
No, the rest of us.
No. Yeah.
The chat has all very much agreed that Logan deserves to go through, and apparently that I am the devil. So
why are you the devil?
Because I made you watch Fan Four Stick.
Okay, fair enough. I can't defend you against that one.
And the chat's very questioning you watched this movie but not Venom. So
I mean, look.
That's fair. That's
no,
really
it's
fair.
not fair. It's not fair because I will watch basically anything that Jamie Bell is in if you give me Jamie Bell. So
that's fair. All right.
Give me my Tintin sequel, goddammit.
Let's move on to what I think could actually be the most interesting conversation of the first round. And we have Punisher versus Punisher Warzone.
Oh, fuck.
So I watched both of these once again for the first time this last week. And from the energy that I had gathered from the internet, I was very much supposed to appreciate Punisher Warzone more than the Punisher. Don't know why, but it just had that kind of energy. And then I watched both and I went, Punisher Warzone is beautifully shot, but it is boring as hell. And it's also hard for me to get through because it's very violent in a sense that to me it's a little bit too much. But that's just because I'm a little like that. And after watching The Punisher, it was a very big jump in that. The Punisher I had so much fun with. I actually had so much more fun than I was expecting to have because no one really talks about The Punisher, that movie specifically.
Oh, don't worry, I will.
Yep, definitely will.
I thought the cast was great. I thought the supporting cast had a lot of really great chemistry. They had so much fun together. I was having fun watching them have fun. I think the story works really well. The tone they hit is really good. And I'm actually really sad that when we put on Punisher Warzone, I was like, so this is basically just trashing basically everything that I just enjoyed about the first movie and then doing worse things, but not even with the same cast that I can enjoy that I had from the first one. So it was honestly really, really disappointing, especially watching them back to back and kind of just going, well, all right, I guess my hatred for what they did to this is very much delayed, seeing as I'm watching it for the first time now.
Yeah.
And people who saw it back when it all came out had their kind of moment with it. And now I'm just like, well, now I'm angry and I want people to be angry with because I'm very disappointed. So I'm going with The Punisher.
I'm also going to go with The Punisher. The reason for that is everything you just said. It's a more fun film. I can enjoy The Punisher more, and I actually did really enjoy a lot about it. I also think it speaks volumes to just how brutally violent of a human being the Punisher actually is in that movie. And I have no sympathy for who he kills whatsoever. And the movie does a really good job of making me not of how brutally a lot of the Stone family are killed. And I'm like, nope, they deserved it. So I think that speaks volumes for just how well that movie's made. Pat, PJ, let's go with you.
I mean, look, Punisher Warzone is a film that came way too late after a film that we deserved with Thomas Jane. Like, we deserved a sequel. And Punisher Warzone is like a decent 80s action film through the lens of a grindhouse like camera, essentially. It's not necessarily good. It's something Steven Seagal would have made in the late 80s or the early 90s. But I mean, Thomas Jane's Punisher 2004 is like a legitimately good movie, one that I think actually pays much respect to the source material while also making the changes that it does. And I think that John Travolta as Howard Sane is actually one of the best Marvel villains. So for me, it's definitely Punisher 2004.
All right. Robert, I'm going to go with you.
So Ray Stevenson as Punisher in Warzone is very much like the arcade version of Punisher. And then you've got the actual version of Punisher, which was John Barenthal, really well done. And then you've got Tom Jane as like the top 40 Punisher, where he worked. It was a great movie, and I've got a lot to say about it as it moves on, because I'm sure it will. But when it came down to Warzone, like, we got Jigsaw, that was cool. Again, Netflix ended up doing a much better Jigsaw. So it didn't succeed, much like the Spirit of Vengeance, where it's like, it looked cool and we had something that could possibly go somewhere, but you dropped the ball and it wasn't that great. So you fall, and the Punisher moves on. And yes, we'll get to Travolta and how awesome he is in that movie as Travolta.
Vanessa.
So my vote is good. It is going to go for the Punisher because of John Travolta. I think that he did a fantastic job in that character. There's a particular scene, and we can go into it later, just it from that movie, and it has to deal with cars, and it was great. Yeah. But I will say I haven't seen Punisher Warzone, and I just recently tried to watch it this past week, and I could not get through it. So that's why I'm going for the Punisher.
Evan.
So it's been finals week out here in Florida, and one of my classes is a film class. So funny enough, I actually had to write a film analysis paper on La La Land. Didn't watch the Punisher or Punisher Warzone. I could care less. My vote doesn't matter, so we're gonna go Warzone.
Jesus Christ.
All right, Hogue, you got the final vote.
They do call La La Land the Punisher of today. Like, right? That's not an inappropriate comparison.
Dude, Sebastian and me, I'm okay.
No, Vanessa, I watched Punisher Warzone this morning because I'd never seen it before, and I thought, okay, let's be as informed as we can for this. It was so boring. And this is the kind of the thing that I think the original Punisher doesn't get enough credit for, is the importance of, Frank Castle and like the revenge task he's on. Like, Jacob, you said he brutally kills these guys, and you really are on his side because of how well that like set piece. I haven't seen the first Punisher in a long time, but I still have those images in my head of him fighting the Russian, him torturing the guy with the popsicle, him dragging Travolta through the parking lot. Like, it is seared into my brain of just, that is a movie that just sits with me as, oh, they did that well. And then Warzone just feels kind of like the cookie cutter, just less well executed version of, a 1980s Steven Seagal movie, which is like a good comparison, PJ. The Punisher.
All right. Most of the chat is also very much in vehement agreement that the Punisher is the one that should move on. All very much enjoying John Travolta as a villain. So let's move on to our next one. We have X2 versus Blade Trinity. PJ, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, come on, it's X2. Blade Trinity single-handedly destroyed that franchise. We never got another Blade movie. It's definitely X2.
Vanessa?
I think that, back when, comic books were starting to come together, X2 was very much the top of the list of being like such an awesome movie. And then, of course, coming off of Blade 2, going into Blade Trinity, sure, you got Ryan Reynolds, but it just did not work. So X2, it is for me.
Robert?
They cast Triple H with a vampiric Pomeranian as one of the villains. Parker Posey also as one of the other villains. The fake, what's her name in Scream 3?
Yep.
Gale Weathers. I almost forgot it. Couldn't let that one go. And yeah, it's an attempt. They kill Whistler in like the first 5 minutes. Don't watch the movie. I ruined it for you. But yeah, X2, because they do so much better, which we'll get into.
Taylor?
We didn't even bother watching Trinity. Like, I was like, I don't think there's a point. Like, I've already seen Blade 2. It can only get worse from here. So we're just going to go with X2 because I kind of didn't want to break my heart.
Yeah.
Like, the first Blade movie was fine. And then I got to Blade 2 and I was like, awesome. And then I didn't want to just like break my own heart by going on to Trinity. So we didn't even do that.
Hogue?
Hello, my name is Fuck You. Great joke. Blade Trinity, really great, really breaking boundaries there. Yeah, it's X2. God, ew. Remember that he jumps in, has the name tag, says "Hello, my name is Fuck You." That's stupid. I hate it.
Real quick for the chat. Yes, I know there's a Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie. I own it.
Yeah, we didn't include. I know. I had to only do 32 movies.
It also didn't get a theatrical release. You're fine.
Yeah, so that's why. Evan, I'm sorry. Just real quick. Blade X2. Obviously, Evan.
Could you imagine a world where X2 was released today instead of back then? The reaction to it, we talk about fandom and kind of how it's turned sour. Imagine if X2 was dropped today, especially with all the political commentary that was behind it. That's kind of how the movie stood the test of time. It's going to be X2, but I just had that thought, and I was like, wow, X2 really did that. So X2.
He had to add something different that everyone else has already said. All right, let's move on to our next one. X-Men Origins Wolverine versus Deadpool 2. The chat also very vehemently agreed X2 deserves to move on. Evan, I'm going to start with you.
Here's the thing. We have to talk about the movie where Deadpool came from. Like, X-Men Origins Wolverine is one of the best examples of how to make a shitty movie. Like, why would anyone ever write a script trying to figure out where Wolverine came from and do it that poorly? It's Deadpool 2. I actually think it's the better of the two Deadpool movies, and I know that's controversial. It's like front to back, so full of heart, and we actually expand kind of like where Deadpool came from and like why he thinks the way he does, and also his ideas on family changes and whatnot. It's fucking Deadpool 2. So good.
Okay. I'm also going Deadpool 2, even though I don't like Deadpool 2 as a movie. But it is 1,000 times better than X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, look, at least Deadpool 2 is like a competently made film. The only reason I don't like Deadpool 2 is because the humor doesn't work for me in Deadpool 2. Don't know why, but I just did not find it funny, whereas I thought the first one was hilarious, and I don't know why there's such a disconnect between that one and then this movie. But I did still think it was a well-made movie, and I think Ryan Reynolds was great in it. I just didn't have a great time with Deadpool 2, but there's no way in hell that I'm picking X-Men Origins Wolverine. So,
all right, PJ.
I mean, look, I don't love either of these movies, if I'm being completely honest. Deadpool 2, I think, has gotten worse as time has gone on. It's been like 2 years, and I just don't think it's aging any better than it already did. But I got Once Upon a Deadpool out of it, which is the best version of The Princess Bride. So I'm going to go with Deadpool 2.
I can't believe you just disrespected Princess Bride like that, but whatever.
Dude, The Princess Bride, not great. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm not a fan either.
We can turn off both their cameras, right? Like that's
right.
That's someone has that functionality.
Yeah. Robert, where are you going?
So the experience again in the theater does greatly sway my judgment when it comes to how I feel about a movie. And I remember the experience for X-Men Wolverine so much more than Deadpool 2, because Deadpool 2 just felt like a cookie cutter type of sequel. Really upset what they did with his, what was it, the X-Force team that he brought in. And, Peter was the biggest draw to our channel for our reaction to Peter, skydiving. And that's all we got. That's all it was. You understand where you could have put Peter throughout this movie, and it would have been so much better than it was. X-Men Wolverines dropped the ball many parts. The whole Deadpool aspect, the ball is dropped. Danny Houston as Stryker, I thought was better than Brian Cox as Stryker in X2. And then, of course, we ended up getting Kevin Durand as the Blob. Now, it's weird because the Blob is so big, but I love Kevin Durand. And there were just so many aspects. Leif Schreiber, so many aspects of X-Men Wolverines. I had more fun with it. I'm going X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Wow. All right. Vanessa.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
I'm being swayed by Robert's argument. I would like to change my vote.
Just mind you that what he just said had nothing to do for why I picked this movie, but I am going the same way with X-Men Origins because, to be honest, Deadpool 2 is fine, and every time I watch it, there's I'm like, wait, okay, I thought it was good, but okay, like my love for it starts to dwindle. I'm just like, meh, it happens. But then watching X-Men Origins, yes, I know it just doesn't. It's a weird movie as far as Origins goes for Wolverine. But I had thinking of both of the movies. I go towards Wolverine because I had more fun with Wolverine than I did with Deadpool 2.
I'm changing
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, you have the deciding vote. It's 3-3. Hogue has the deciding vote right now on whether or not.
Boy, Zazie bets like this. Do not disrespect Zazie bets like this.
Evan, I'm going to need you to ask Zazie to get off my back because it's a big decision to make. Removing PJ and Robert's opinion about Princess Bride. I'm still reeling from that.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I'm just not a fan in terms of I've seen it one time.
I mean, it is objectively a perfect movie. There are no flaws. And anyone who brings them to you deserves to be hung. See, I made this argument earlier that there's this really charming actor. His name is Hugh Jackman, and he plays this really good character named Wolverine in X-Men Origins Wolverine. But that X-Force scene in Deadpool 2 single-handedly makes it better than most of the other X-Men movies.
Should have been the whole movie, though. They didn't keep it for the whole movie.
And also, can I also point out that they fridge Moria so early on, and it totally to Evan saying that it's more emotional, they kill all the emotional connection from the first film out the gate, and I think it totally wrecks the movie.
It's not about her though.
Okay, guys, boys.
No, I
have a big decision to make here.
An invisible Brad Pitt, the whole movie would have been way better.
I agree.
The fact that I think both Deadpool movies actually have a pretty strong emotional core running through them and actually balance that humor pretty well. I gotta disagree, Robert. Brian Cox as Stryker is one of the best performances.
He's good. I jumped the gun with that statement. He's good. He's good.
There's a lot of entertainment to be had with Wolverine. Leif Schreiber's great. Hugh Jackman's Canadian. That just puts it above.
It was Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. No, wait a second. Hold on. We're just glossing over the fact. We're just glossing over the fact that Canada is trying to claim Hugh Jackman when you have
He's one of our only good ones.
Logan is Canadian. I'm going with Deadpool.
Oh, thank God.
Deadpool 2 makes it through. Wow, I can't believe we nearly just had that moment.
I really wish it had made it. It would have been so interesting.
It would have lost
quick energy. Okay.
I don't think you understand, PJ, Robert, and Vanessa. How? Oh,
I don't think you understand because you couldn't finish that sentence.
Clearly.
Guys, we're not even past the first round. We still have
I know.
Spider-Man 1 to come up again.
So much worse. All right, let's move on to our next one. We have the original Spider-Man versus Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Okay, we all in agreement? We're knocking Spider-Man out. PJ.
I am. I'm definitely going for Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer gets the first vote. Taylor.
Spider-Man.
Okay. Evan.
Dude, I'm sorry, but Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer is such a fucking disaster.
It is.
If this is the last dance with Mary Jane because Jacob and Pat are being fucking idiots, then I'm kicking them both off their even Jacob's own fucking stream. It's Spider-Man. There was a reason this movie exists, and it's spot in history. Fucking the wrestling scene is so good. It's Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer has no spot in film history. If it didn't come out, no one would even care. No people. The film doesn't exist. Spider-Man exists for good reason.
Can I change my vote?
What is wrong with you? You're wearing a Yankees hat right now. You're not a real New Yorker if you don't like the Spider-Man movies. That's
a
right.
Nice, calm conversation. This is great.
Taylor, you can totally change your vote.
She just
I
did.
literally just changed my vote because Evan's annoying me.
Robert, I'm going to go to you.
So, I mean, for me, obviously, it's Spider-Man. I mean, one of the comic books that I read most growing up was Spider-Man, all different variations. Hence why I love all the Spider-Mans. The way a lot of you guys approach Star Wars, how all of them, you love them. Me, I do love all of them, with the exception of Spider-Man 3, but I can go back and watch it again. But for me, Rise of the Silver Surfer, again, you use them at the wrong time, and you use them in a decent but not good Fantastic Four series. So yeah, it stumbles, it falls, it's boring. I can't go back and rewatch it. Spider-Man all the way.
Vanessa.
I'm gonna go Spider-Man for several different reasons, but the main reason is because of Danny Elfman's score to Spider-Man. I think that it is one of the most iconic themes that he has created for any movie, especially for a comic book movie. Because once you hear it, you know exactly where it's from. You know it's Spider-Man, and the fact that they in Silver Surfer that they were gonna introduce Galactus, but the way that they do it and the way that he's presented or executed is just a cloud of nothingness.
Yep.
I don't disagree.
So Spider-Man.
Jacob,
You want to change your vote again, PJ?
Nope. Look, I'm going to say this right now. Every time one of the Raimi films comes up, I'm voting against it.
Cool.
How do you hate cinema?
That could get real interesting real quick. Okay, I'm going to go with the first Spider-Man.
Just Spider-Man. Just Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man is just not I don't think either of these are great movies at all. But I am going to go with the first Spider-Man. It is a much more competently made movie. It is even though I really do not like Tobey Maguire in this role, I think that this movie has aged terribly. It's aged a lot better than Rise of the Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer is not a good movie whatsoever. So I am going with the first Spider-Man. Hogue, passionately talk about Spider-Man, even though it has gotten through.
So what I'm going to say, it's an older movie that has flaws. Yes. Mary Jane isn't handled well in those movies. I like Kirsten Dunst, but that character could use some work. The relationships are a little weird. They're a little off. Tobey Maguire is a little awkward. Everything just kind of, it feels like that early 2000s vibe, but it's that careful calibration by Sam Raimi. Those knowing winks, those nods, those things that you can have a scene with J. Jonah Jameson, which this movie gives us, of him going crazy about talking about newspapers, and then have dramatic moments of Aunt May talking to Peter about what is a hero. It has those quiet moments. It has those bombastic comic book movies, and Robert, what you were saying, this is a movie that's very hard to remove from my childhood. When I saw Spider-Man in Civil War for the first time, I got that moment in my gut that I know a lot of comic book fans get when they see a lot of these Marvel movies, because I don't read comics, but Spider-Man was my guy. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, that scene of him walking up the wall for the first time and the camera is from the wall coming up. That was an entire probably like day and a half to set up that set, to have him just climb up for that one shot. A lot of this is going to be taste. Sam Raimi's like kind of goofiness, a lot of that are like early 2000s kind of camp doesn't work for a lot of people. And there's a lot of cheesy things that just don't fly because of how movies are seen nowadays. But when I go back and watch the first Spider-Man, or especially Spider-Man 2, I like the Marvel movies currently, but those movies feel like such a breath of fresh air for how creative they are, how individualistic, and I get those nostalgia tinges. And we'll talk about it further, but Willem fucking Dafoe in that movie, Spider-Man's going through.
All right, Spider-Man.
For the record, I have the poster for this movie in my hallway. So it's not like
burn it. You hate this movie, PJ.
Let's move on to what I think is my hardest one, but not for for not positive reasons, because I hate both of these movies. And that is The Amazing Spider-Man 2 versus Blade. Robert, I'm going to start with you.
It's funny you chose the one that's most conflicting to myself, because of the same reasons. Like Amazing Spider-Man 1, far superior than 2, and Blade 2 far superior than Blade 1. But what I do love about Blade 1 is it's gritty. You've got Stephen Dorff playing a character that is completely an asshole that you do want to see Blade overcome. When it comes to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you did the Green Goblin again, and I'm not for it. But you ended up doing the death of Gwen Stacy, which I get, but at that point it felt shoehorned in. So for me, the one that ends up carrying forward, as a Spider-Man fan, I can say that I would prefer to go back and watch the first Blade than I would Amazing Spider-Man 2. And it's only because of them trying to push too far too fast to try and make the Sinister Six films, all of it just being discombobulated, not the best. It's the Spider-Man 3 of that Andrew Garfield series. And for me, I would say the better movie that I would prefer, Whistler, such a badass. I love his relationship with Blade. And it's got to be Blade moving forward past Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Taylor.
I mean, I agree. I don't really have too much to add. I would gladly put Blade on again before I put on The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Even though I do think there are parts of Blade that are a little slow. There are parts that I think were kind of shoehorned in, but with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's like they literally went, we need the Sinister Six movie literally right now. So let's just shove everything we can in. Let's take the story that wasn't handled as great as it could have been with Gwen Stacy and then just kill her because that's not fully developed yet, but let's just do it anyway. Like there were just a lot of decisions thrown in because I feel like that's a problem with that studio when they try to do superhero movies a lot of the time is they want it now. They want it all right now. They don't have the patience to let it get to where it needs to go. And I think that's what ultimately killed The Amazing Spider-Man was that second movie. They just wanted it all right now and they needed it all right this very second in this movie, and it had no room to breathe or to do anything on its own, and I just wouldn't put it on again.
That's fair. Evan, where are you going?
Okay, I got a feeling this movie isn't going to get through, so I'm going to give my impassioned love about it for it now. I love love The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It does everything that The Amazing Spider-Man does, but better outside of the plot. Like with the shit ton of plot holes that it has. The characters are better in this movie. The look of the movie is better. The sound of the movie is better. It just does so many things right that, like, sometimes if you just ignore a lot of the bullshit that it comes with, this movie is so much fun. Like,
so ignore the movie.
No, Evan, I'm with you.
Okay, you you can play a video game and the story behind it might be awful, but all the gameplay mechanics are still a lot of fun. It's kind of the same point here. Like, what they're going for doesn't work, but like there's so many good scenes in this movie. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are way more on fire than they were in the last film. I think the death of Gwen Stacy, not what led up to it, but the actual scene itself might be one of the best scenes in comic book history. It is so beautiful. especially when he shoots the web to go get her and it's a hand reaching out. Like, oh, this is the last chance I have, and she still dies, is so heartbreaking. And dude, the new suit and the new color palette versus what was the Amazing Spider-Man is 10 times better. Like, there's a Mark Webb movie in here. Like, you see it. It is totally there. It just misses its mark, but I have to go Amazing Spider-Man 2 because, like, I unabashedly love this movie for what it does.
It's because it was hard to fuck up as it was, because it was already done in the comic so beautifully. They just replicated those scenes. That's how it translated to the movie. That's what was positive about it, and that's what you're thinking of.
Yep. Hogue, let's go to you.
I will give Evan credit. I think that's because there are a lot of movies in our pop culture zeitgeist that do not hold up on a plot like level. The original Batman really doesn't make sense as a story, but there's enough iconography, there's enough cool set pieces, and there's enough of the characterization getting right. I'm going to say the same for X2 when we get back to it. I don't think that plot holds up, but I think the characters and set pieces are so well done. There's a world where Amazing Spider-Man 2 is good. I agree. I think it looks brighter. I think it's colorful. As goofy as it is, Paul Giamatti as the Rhino is a blast for me. That set piece is shot in Rochester, New York, which is my hometown, so it's objectively good. You can't criticize it.
That's cool.
Yeah, real practical effects. The web shooting out and becoming the hand, it's goofy, it's sentimental. I like it. It gets to my gooey heart. The relationship between Peter and Harry, I don't hate. Him and Emma Stone is pretty good, but it just doesn't add up to anything. And like, there is enough dumb stuff intermingled throughout, and a lot of just too much like agenda pushing of we need 6 sequels and Aunt May spinoff and all that. Whereas, I don't love the phrase, you wouldn't have the sequel without the original, even though it's true. But I think that is no more truer than with like Blade to Blade 2. I think Blade really sets up a lot of good spinning plates that like Blade 2 can just like sprint out the gate with. And Steven Dorff's really great. Wesley Snipes is really great in those movies. And there's this kind of aesthetic and kind of mythology you don't see in these kind of movies, especially this gothic horror. That like Rain of Blood rave scene is so cool. That the whole like Daywalker kind of mythology. I'm gonna be with you, Evan. I get your fight for Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I'm gonna go with Blade.
Look, I really do appreciate it. I just know I had to get my love for the movie as I was gonna get knocked out.
All right, Pat.
There's nothing I can say about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as a Spider-Man fan other than I think that the movie is massively not good. I just think that it takes so much of what I love about the first film and throws it out. I saw this movie in 95. It was called Batman Forever. Elektra's storyline, exactly the same as the Riddler's. Like, there's nothing about this movie that works. Sony's trying to shoehorn shit in for the sake of doing 100 other sequels and 100 other things. I mean, look, I'm glad you love it, dude, but sometimes, objectively speaking, I just cannot get behind that. And you have to look at Blade. Like, to your same argument about Spider-Man being, like, a place of history, Blade is the first comic book film. It was pre-X-Men. It was pre a lot of that stuff. If we're talking, like, the new wave of comic book movies, Blade really sets that off at the very beginning. So we have to give that movie its place in cinema history for that alone. And it's also a black superhero on top of it, like, coming out the gate, which is fucking awesome. Like, I can't not vote against Blade on this.
Okay. Vanessa, where's your vote going to?
My vote is going to Blade. I'm going to keep it short and simple and just say that there was too much going on with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I will also say, like, the music for Amazing Spider-Man 2 is fine, which makes me really sad because it is also Hans Zimmer, and I love Hans Zimmer. But I felt like there was too many things going on. They didn't know where they wanted to go, so it's Blade.
It was a step down from Horner for sure, but unfortunate. They had to replace him.
Yeah, there's nothing you could do about that, unfortunately.
It hurts the film too.
Yep. I'm passing you a note of a compliment just to make sure you feel better. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. Does he have it? You should have
I should have coordinated.
Yeah.
Blade moves on because I'm also going with Blade. This is really choose your poison for me. Like
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not.
fair.
I'm never gonna rewatch either of these movies, but I get if I've got to pick one of them, it would definitely be Blade. All right.
What's next?
Next we have The Wolverine versus Spider-Man 3. I'm gonna kick this one off. Spider-Man 3 has a lot of moments that I will agree work. There are a lot of things about the movie that I do enjoy that I think are solid elements to this movie. And I think the final shot that we ultimately do leave on in Spider-Man 3 of Peter and Mary Jane in the jazz club together, not quite knowing what the future will hold for the two of them together, is, I think, the perfect cap to this weird, strange, sometimes absolutely beautiful, sometimes terrible trilogy that Sam Raimi made. However, The Wolverine is a very, very solid and well-made film for 2/3 of it. And then it has a terrible ending, but it has one of the best post-credit scenes ever in any Marvel film. By the whisker, I've got to go Wolverine. I'm going to go... Oh, which emo do I go with? I'm going to leave the emos to last. PJ.
It's not a question for me. I actually really love the Wolverine. I think that with the director's cut especially, I think a lot of the third act stuff gets fixed. I think that you get a lot of added depth to that final confrontation. I just like Hugh Jackman. I like their work. I like his work together with Mangold. This movie just sings to me. The opening where he's hunting the people in the forest is one of my all-time favorite Marvel comic book movie scenes ever. I love this movie. I'm going to Wolverine.
Vanessa.
This is a little weird one for me because I just recently watched The Wolverine like last year for the first time ever. I've never and I just didn't connect with that story at all, so it just didn't feel like for me. I saw Spider-Man 3 in theaters, although Spider-Man 3 does have its flaws. And again, it kind of has that thing like it didn't know where it wanted to go as far as which villains it wanted to do. And it kind of just threw a lot of it towards you because they're like, let's just put these villains in there because they're like top tier for Spider-Man. And the way that Tobey Maguire just becomes this emo character just didn't really do it for me either. However, I think I would probably go for Spider-Man 3 over the Wolverine, though. I love Hugh Jackman, but Spider-Man 3 for me.
Oh, you're going to me next?
Yes, I'm going to go to you next.
God, okay. So this is tough for me because the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies I have a complicated relationship with because there are parts of all three of them that I think are really great. But I also have problems with a lot of them, and it's hard for me to reconcile the amount that I don't like Tobey Maguire in those movies. And it's been that way since I was a kid. Like, it's not something that as I've gotten older, I've looked back and go, oh, I don't think he fits. Even as these movies were coming out, I just had something where I was like, I don't like this. Something about him and this character, I don't like it. But I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying that at all. I do have love for these movies growing up with them. Definitely. But I just don't have, for some reason, the people that are close to my age, I don't have that same nostalgia that they do. Like these didn't really turn me into that Spider-Man fan that they did for a lot of other people. And the third one definitely isn't on the top of my Raimi trilogy list. The Wolverine I really did enjoy, I remember, but I haven't watched it again since. Like, I've seen it the one time and I remember enjoying it one time. Spider-Man 3 I've seen a couple of times, so it's this weird, like, I don't really feel super strongly right now for either of them, but if I have to pick, I'm going to go with Wolverine.
All right.
Just because I do remember enjoying it, whereas Spider-Man 3, I remember half of it being like, okay, and then the other half going, I don't mind emo Spider-Man. Like, I actually really want emo Spider-Man, but not as Tobey Maguire, because I don't buy Tobey Maguire as emo Spider-Man. Like, I think that was my main problem, where I'm like, no, this just isn't a thing. I can't do this.
All right. Evan. Sorry, emo Evan.
There you go. That's better.
Look. Here's the thing. For as cool as Wolverine is, it's a lot of fun. It's a good ride, but there's a reason one of the movies has stayed in our cultural zeitgeist and the other hasn't. For as much as I can shit on Spider-Man 3, a lot of people love the fact that this movie sometimes becomes the biggest meme in the world. But that's okay, if that makes any sense. And I enjoy it for that reason. We watch these Raimi movies, and there's some stick and cheese to it, and this one specifically, it heightens it. Past Venom and all the bullshit that comes with that, Sandman is actually a great villain. His backstory and kind of like what he represents in those movies is really cool and really entailed. I just have a lot of fun with Spider-Man 3, and I know a lot of my friends do, and I do think half of it might be because it's part of the joke, part of the meme, but like even with that, I enjoy it. I could sit down, get plastered with my friends, and watch Spider-Man 3 versus just on a normal Saturday watch the Wolverine. So Spider-Man 3 it is. Can
I just say that if we're gonna start like judging movies on how meme they are,
we're in trouble.
Like I might just lose my mind a little bit. And also I have to disagree with Evan. I think the Sandman story is probably my least favorite in Spider-Man 3, but whatever.
All right, emo Hogue. Give your impassioned, bold speech on why Spider-Man 3 deserves to go on.
Now take on this. So I gave Spider-Man an emboldened and impassioned defense. All of that still remains for Spider-Man 3. And, you know, I'll be on Evan's side. I do think the Sandman storyline is really good. It's really hampered by Venom. Like, yeah. I'm not going to be saying anything that, like, hasn't been said, but that movie sticks the landing. I think that movie, like, Jacob, like what you said, like, kind of the note it ends on really ties it together. But the road to get there is a little less than well-traveled. And looking at the Wolverine, which I kind of see these both on the same kind of enjoyable standard, what the Wolverine was coming off of with X-Men Origins and what it led to with Logan, as opposed to Spider-Man 3 that just came off of Spider-Man 2, the fact that it kind of lost all that potential for what a sequel could be, and the fact that Wolverine really set itself up for even deeper success going past that, I'm gonna go with the Wolverine.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, Robert, where are we going?
Where are we at right now for the score?
I think it's 3-3.
No, it's 4-2.
4-2.
So Wolverine will go through.
Wolverine will go through. All right.
Yes,
well,
Wolverine.
that sucks because I was hoping to actually make a little bit of controversy. Because for me, you know how I felt leaving Spider-Man 3 at the theaters? Disappointed, let down. You didn't stick the landing. That sucks. You know how I felt leaving The Wolverine when I watched it in theaters? I didn't, because I didn't go watch it at the theaters. When I eventually watched it at home, I was bored. I didn't care. Omega Red should be a damn villain in a Wolverine movie, and yet they didn't do anything near something engaging, in my opinion, that they should have done for Wolverine until Logan. So it's like, you know, X-Men Origins and then the Wolverine, yeah, it's more violent and better than the first one, but really it wasn't till Logan that we eventually got it, but it felt too little too late at that point. So for me, Spider-Man 3, because of the most fun that I can go back in meme form when it comes to what has come out of this movie, for me, Spider-Man 3 is so ridiculously terrible that it has a redeeming quality because of that. The Wolverine, my best friend. That whole James Franco aspect to it. God, yeah, no. It's Spider-Man 3.
I left you last because I was sure that Hogue was going to vote for Spider-Man 3 and I wanted it to be 3-3.
So did I.
Yeah,
I thought it was
so he kind of screwed me on that one. So
it's okay.
You can't buy me unless you have a lot of money.
So how's the chat feeling about this?
The chat's very divided. A lot
On
of
this
them,
movie?
on this, no, a lot of them are saying the Wolverine, and a lot are also saying Spider-Man 3.
Okay, so
it's,
they're about the same place we are.
yeah.
Also,
this
one
is-
was complimenting my bit.
yes,
that was great.
Yes, he definitely.
I know
was
that
complimenting.
face.
Yeah, Adrian Bailey was complimenting your bit. Let's move on to the last one of the first round.
Oh my god.
This we have
It's
Ghost
an hour and a
Rider.
half in.
I know.
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2. Let's just move on.
Yeah, it's Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Anyone here? Okay,
Me too.
just real quick. Is anyone actually voting for Ghost
I
Rider?
am. Excuse me.
Okay, Taylor,
Excuse
you were
me.
voting for Ghost Rider.
Excuse me.
Eva Mendes.
You cannot just say, oh, we're just going to throw Ghost Rider away. You cannot sit here and say, we're not going to talk about Nicolas Cage in this movie. We're not going to talk about the perfect amount of yeehaw energy in this movie. We're not going to talk about just how crazy, ridiculous fun Ghost Rider is. I will not stand for it. I literally did a whole thread of the yeehaw energy in this movie and how much I love that and how Nicolas Cage was just like, you know what? I am just going for this. And I don't even care because I'm doing it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about Ghost Rider.
Also, Wes Bentley's pretty good in that movie too.
Look, I have a
All right.
perfectly good time with Ghost Rider, but like Spider-Man is gotta
I'm
go
just
on.
saying it deserves to get
It deserves
it
that
deserves
moment.
to
Okay,
have its
fair enough.
moment
All right.
before we kick it out.
Okay.
That's
I
all.
will
That's
say
fair.
I
Because
do
we-
like the story in Ghost Rider. I think that with Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider and Eva Mendes in it, I did enjoy that. And then of course you have why am I forgetting on his name?
Wes Bentley.
No, not Wes Bentley.
Fucking what's his name?
Oh,
Cowboy bro. Fucking
Adam Page.
No.
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 Coco
like-
Seabassen.
The
Sam Elliott.
goat.
Yeah,
Yes.
Sam Elliott. It has freaking Sam Elliott in
Is
it.
it Sam
I
Elliott?
know.
Yes.
I just went to the Hulk.
so just
has
real quick,
some-
Danny Coast is asking, what's a yeehaw energy?
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah, I got the
Yeehaw
horses in the bird.
It's the fact that he's like, you know what? Cowboy hat, drinking the coffee out of the coffee maker, no cup. That's what I'm talking about.
It's
He literally
blowing
just
up
takes
the Death Star 2, motherfucker. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
literally, and you know what? Just look at like a picture of Sam Elliott and listen to his voice, and that's yeehaw energy as well. So that's really
Hell
all
yeah.
you need.
I got it.
Thank
All right.
you,
From
Robert.
Arizona. She's from Arizona. She gets it.
Come on.
I
You
am
know what? I
voting-
was actually really tempted to wear my cowboy boots on this stream and just like put my feet on the table.
Yeah.
I'm voting for Spider-Man 2 because I think Spider-Man 2 is just a better movie. But yeah, I'll give you had your moment, and I will give you. Your moment.
Look, I was not going to allow that to go by
Okay.
without having that moment. Okay.
That's fair.
Because as much as Spider-Man 2 is absolutely the better movie, you cannot look at the movies we've talked about in this first round and go, no, Ghost Rider's the worst one, and we're not just going to talk about it at all. No way.
Okay.
Absolutely not on my watch.
Fair enough.
I will
Vanessa?
say, someone said that Rebel Wilson does make a cameo in Ghost Rider.
does!
I never realized that until I watched it again, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is Rebel
I
Wilson."
was losing my
Anyway,
mind. I
Not
was-
just someone. That was Albert. Good job, Albert.
Yes,
Yeah.
it puts it in
Oh,
the chat.
dude, I
But-
cannot believe that. That was like a moment for me when I realized she was in it.
All
So
right.
Spider-Man
Spider-
2, huh?
Spider-Man 2, I will go with Spider-Man 2 over Ghost Rider. However, I do like watching Ghost Rider, and I would watch it again.
Borg.
All right. Ghost Rider. Spider-Man 2 does move on. Let's move on to our second round.
Guys, we're into the second round. It's about to get serious.
All right.
Oh, damn.
Kind of. The first movie we have is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse versus Venom. Pat.
Which Pat? PJ?
Sorry, PJ.
It's Into the Spider-Verse. Is this a conversation? Next.
I second that. It's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse. Next. Evan.
It's Spider-Verse.
Hogue.
Yeah, I will see how many of these are this easy to make, but it's Into the Spider-Verse.
Vanessa.
Spider-Verse.
And Robert?
That's it.
As long as, as much as I complain about they use the Goblin too much, it's not so much that they use the Goblin again at one point in Spider-Verse. It's because I just didn't like how he looked. It looked like this big giant gargoyle thing. I'm like, all right, you're taking a little bit too many liberties when it comes to your character structure. So for me, that stuck out. Obviously, I'm talking about it. Venom, didn't pack the punch like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse did. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse moves on.
That was way too easy. It's
That-
never going to be like that.
If we can get the
Also,
rest of that easy, it would be good. All
Just to
right.
shout out Robert's point real quick, they were totally using the Ultimate Spider-Man design for Goblin. I know that it's a weird look. It's just
It's
one
like
of
a
those
gargoyle dragon.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
No, I know. I get it. It's not even like they were taking liberties. They were literally going off of something from a comic that just, whether you like it or not, it's another
It
thing.
happened.
I gave up after the movie started coming out. So there's been a lot of Spider-Man since then. Miles Morales is where I gave up. I should go back to Miles Morales.
We have X-Men versus X-Men First Class.
Ooh.
Robert, where are we going?
First Class, that score, Matthew Vaughn and the connection with Henry Jackman,
Such a
so
good score.
fantastic. Brian Singer, it was like, fine. We got Rogue, where's Jubilee? I wanted a little bit more when it came to where we already all were when it came to our knowledge of X-Men, and I felt like they were crawling before they could walk. So for me, X-Men was fun, cool, you get Ray Park as Toad, but all in all, those lines are terrible. What happens to a frog when you strike it or electrify it? What was it? It was so crap you don't remember it, like everything
The
else.
same thing that happens to everything else, of course.
Exactly, it's garbage. So X-Men First Class, Kevin Bacon, Matthew Vaughn, Henry Jackman. Holy crap, that score's so good. Then they ditched freaking Henry Jackman after that. That's why your guys' movie started sucking once again. X-Men First Class.
Vanessa.
Oliver Platt. Come on. Rose Byrne.
I am gonna go with X-Men First Class. I think that when they announced X-Men First Class and it came out, I was just kind of like, okay, well, we're getting another X-Men movie, cool. And of course, taking that risk of recasting and making younger, Magneto and Professor X. You're like, oh, well, can you do it? Because you had such two iconic actors playing such two iconic characters from before, and then bringing them into a story like this. And I just fell in love with X-Men First Class. So X-Men First Class.
PJ.
I mean, it's First Class. No more to say. It's First Class.
Hogue.
A little more of a tougher discussion in my head, but I'll go with First Class. I think the first X-Men does still have those great iconic moments. The guns with the bullets and Magneto slowly put into people's heads. Wolverine's first cage fight, the Statue of Liberty fight, I do think is a lot of fun. But there's just so much more nuance and just those little specifics in First Class about the score and the action and all that, and Kevin Bacon being a dreamboat. First Class.
Taylor.
I'm gonna vote for First Class as well. I think with X-Men and the original X-Men movies, I do appreciate what they had to offer a lot for getting us where we are now, whether or not we exactly like where we've ended up in the X-Men universe. But for me, First Class is what got me interested in Professor X and Magneto as characters because of what Fassbender and McAvoy brought to those roles specifically, and what really got me interested in wanting to see more of those stories. And I don't want to say that, the original X-Men cast did badly. They definitely did not. But for me, it was just something that I connected with, going, okay, I want to see where we can go with these characters. And I think there are a lot of big moments in First Class that really open up a lot of opportunities for the stories going forward. Once again, whether they were delivered on or not is not the fault of First Class. I think I have more of an emotional connection with First Class just because of kind of where I was in my life when it came out. So I'm going to go with First Class.
All right, Evan.
As Barney from How I Met Your Mother always says, new is always better. X-Men First Class.
Obviously, I'm also going to go First Class. I think First Class is one of the best X-Men movies, if not the best. So we have two complete knockouts. All right, we have our next one. X-Men Days of Future Past versus Blade 2. I'm going to start this one off. It's X-Men Days of Future Past, no question, not even close.
Taylor.
God, I don't know. People are gonna yell at me because like this should be an easy decision, but like
Ron Perlman.
Days of Future Past is like fine, like it's good, but like Blade 2 is just like so wacky and just like kind of does what it wants, and it's Del Toro, and it's like, you know what, it's gonna get knocked out, but I'm gonna go with Blade 2 just because, you know,
right.
Blade 2. Like, and I'm not saying X-Men Days of Future Past is bad, but
No.
like Robert and I have said before, I just have never revisited it. Like, it's a good movie, but
This one's actually dividing the chat a little bit.
Blade 2.
Robert, where are you going?
So Demaskinas as the overarching villain over everything. Nomad kind of playing a little bit of both sides. He's kind of a revenge story mentality. He's a virus that's essentially infecting all the vampires to go and basically claim his revenge. Yes, the CG is terrible towards the end of the movie. Norman Reedus, Ron Perlman, Guillermo del Toro, Whiskers back, Blade 100% across the board. Days of Future Past, forgettable. I saw it one time. There's some cool moments. Peter Dinklage, but the road cut, you had to go watch the extra features to get it. Blade 2, 100% across the board.
Vanessa, we are talking theatrical cuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're going that route, I'm actually going to go Blade 2. I think that Days of Future Past, the road cut is way better than the theatrical cut. Theatrical cut is fine. I think that it's cool concept that they did that storyline, but I'm going Blade 2. I had fun with that.
Newer is always better. That's all I have to say.
Stop that.
Okay. Hogue.
I saw X-Men Days of Future Past 4 times in theaters. I really liked that one. Both of these movies kind of hit a very specific spot for me. I'm a big fan of like those kind of 90s adventure films, the way that like Days of Future Past is, of we're kind of just going on fun set pieces. It's colorful. These like characters are bouncing off of each other. But I really love gothic horror. I really love like that dark kind of monster, like incestuous kind of like grossness that like Blade 2 has. This is a tough one. I'm gonna, for the sake of defense, go with X-Men Days of Future Past.
Bless your heart.
All right. Pat, you have the deciding vote.
Days of Future Past is the best X-Men movie. Don't at me.
PJ, no.
Or at him. What's to stop you?
Days of Future Past moves on. Evan, stop doing that.
Can
All
we
right.
move
Breaking.
All right, last one for this in this bracket. We have The Amazing Spider-Man versus Deadpool.
Fuck.
Hogue, I'm going to start with you.
This is Deadpool. I don't want to talk about Amazing Spider-Man anymore.
PJ, we're going to go to you next.
It's Deadpool. I mean, I like The Amazing Spider-Man, but
Evan, give your impassioned speech.
I hate this. I hate this so much. How fucking dare you do this to me? Like Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker is amazing. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, you could argue is even better. We're gonna go Deadpool, but like I hate that these two have to go up against each other because that means the Amazing Spider-Man franchise is gone.
Taylor.
But Evan, newer is always better.
That's
You
why
just
Deadpool
didn't
wins.
know. Fuck you. That's what you get. Newer is always better.
Robert.
Newer is always better because we never had a Deadpool quite like this. So it was completely new, something that shook the game of meta comedy, action hero, superhero films. And for that, it walks away with a win. I love Amazing Spider-Man for all the reasons that I already said. James Horner's music, so incredible. Rest in peace, James Horner. But Deadpool did push the bar like I love to see in comic book films, in comedy and action. And the way that they made this movie out of the grassroots mentality of just like leaking the footage and getting it approved from the fan outcry of love and support and passion, Deadpool.
Vanessa.
It's gonna go Deadpool. I did like the first Amazing Spider-Man, but Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool and Deadpool as Ryan Reynolds is just perfect. I think that they hit gold with Ryan Reynolds in the first movie, so it's Deadpool.
Technically, the second X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Meh. So we don't count that.
I'm also going Deadpool because, Deadpool's just a better movie, and it's absolutely fantastic. All right, let's move on to Logan versus the Punisher. PJ, I'm going to start with you.
It's Logan. I like the Punisher. Next.
I'm going to shock everyone. I'm going to go Logan. As much as I think it is Logan. Logan is the better movie.
What?
It's as much as I had a lot of fun with the Punisher, and I definitely actually want to watch it again at some point because I did have a great time. I do think Logan is the better made film, and I do think I had more of an emotional investment in Logan for a lot of reasons. So I have to, as much as it pains me, I have to go with Logan.
All right, Robert.
Logan, they gave us the Professor X death that we deserved versus the one that was just kind of, expeditedly shipped to us in Last Stand. So I really like the Punisher. Again, Travolta and his villainy against Tom Jane. It's novel. It's a novelty type battle between the two of them. It's fine. There's really cool moments that take place between them all. The Cars thing is cool. And he's getting dragged through all the explosions. The whole thing, as it was done in a skeleton, kind of shitty. A little bit on the nose for my taste. But again, Logan, a lot of more heart into it, more effort. It's a better movie, and I enjoyed it more. Logan.
Vanessa.
So I'm gonna go Logan because Logan is the better movie than the Punisher. I do like the Punisher for that scene where he's dragging him through the parking lot and you have all the things going off. I like that scene a lot, but it is gonna be Logan because I feel like we're more invested emotionally with Hugh Jackman and Professor X and everything that they go through in that story. So Logan.
All right, Evan.
It's Logan. We'll talk about this later. I have a bit for it later because I know it's Lenny this time, so it's Logan.
And Hogue, you've got the final vote.
Who punishes the Punisher? It's Logan. Because
Logan.
Moving on. I like Punisher, but not as much as Logan. Good movie.
All right. Logan moves on to the quarterfinals. We now have X2 or Deadpool 2. I am easy. This is no question, easily X2. Taylor.
Yeah.
Easily X2.
Deadpool 2 was so disappointing to me that I don't even like talking about it.
All right. PJ.
It's X2. I think X2 is like the staple of what superhero sequels should look like.
Hogue.
As much as I want to defend Deadpool 2, it's X2. I think there's just a lot, and we'll talk about it, a lot deeper ideas that movie has going on, and handles them pretty well.
Robert?
Yeah, it's obviously what I said before, speaking out against Deadpool 2. X2 very fairly makes up for a lot of those pitfalls in terms of a sequel. So you guys say Days of Future Past is your favorite X-Men movie. For me, it's X2. Moving up.
All right. Vanessa.
It's X2. I like that movie. More I think about it when we're talking about Deadpool 2 here, the more disappointed I'm getting. So it's going X2.
I think we have also, I just want to say, Abby has twice disowned all of us with the Venom pick and now Deadpool 2 and The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Abby.
Abby's very...
Just you wait. We'll disappoint you more.
All right, Evan, your last pick.
Look,
who are you going with?
Since this is last time out, just a quick impassioned speech. Deadpool 2 isn't about the loss, but it's about how you deal with the loss and you find new ones to actually like cope with through all of this. You find your new family, and that's what the story's about. And I hate that part gets looked over. I think the jokes are snappier, the better. Zazie Betts was a much needed addition to Deadpool 2, as it lacked that perspective of comedy that we didn't originally get before. It's a shame that's going out now. I'm gonna go Deadpool 2, and as Abby quoted, myself and Barney Stinson, newer is always better.
Is better.
All right. X2 moves on. Deadpool 2 has been eliminated. We have now Spider-Man versus
shit.
Blade.
Oh fuck.
Hogue, I'm going to start with you. Where are we going?
You think I'm gonna go with Spider-Man, but to surprise you, I'm going with Spider-Man. Yeah, I know. Throwing you through a loop there. It's both if we're talking about like setting the templates of what's gonna go forward. Blade, I think, is a few years too early. Not to say that it's not important and didn't set a lot of groundwork, but it's clearly Spider-Man that really had that vision to kind of set forth like even what Marvel is still carrying on today. Spider-Man is just kind of a perfect morsel of a film. And Blade is really good and really fun and really unique, but it ain't no Spider-Man. Willem Dafoe, everybody, versus Steven Dorff. I want you to think about that.
PJ, where are you going?
It's Blade for me. I would much rather watch Blade than the first Spider-Man. Bruce Campbell withstanding, I just think Blade is the better movie.
Robert?
So, yeah, Spider-Man for me, there was something amiss when I walked out of the theater. Everybody else seemed really happy. For me, I'm like, okay, I mean, you covered a lot of the highlights, but for me, it didn't really hit it home. Now, the Green Goblin, it could be just because the Green Goblin was very well known in terms of my mental repertoire. So for me, a little lame compared to what I was hoping for. Blade, however, though, once Blade 2 came out and Guillermo del Toro was showing me the light of a good Blade movie, I was like, that knocks Blade a little bit down. So still, Spider-Man comes above Blade.
Vanessa?
I'm going Spider-Man as well because, again, like I said before, I really do like the sound or the score and two movies from the soundtrack as well. So it's going Spider-Man.
And Taylor.
Well, like I've said a few times, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man I have a complicated relationship with. I think the first movie is good. I love J. Jonah Jameson. I think that Simmons is one of the best parts of that movie. Easily, Willem Dafoe, I think, is great. And I don't like the first Blade as much as I like Blade 2. But just to spite people, I want to pick Blade. So I think that's what I'm going to do.
All right. We're here for that chaotic energy.
I'm here with the chaos, okay?
That's what we need.
Chaotic energy-wise, I'm going to go Blade, even though I will never rewatch it. And Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man has a lot of great moments, and I'm just going to go chaotic energy and give Evan all of the power to split either PJ
like we know where it's going to go.
My heart.
How? I don't understand how there's so much chaotic energy towards the first Spider-Man. Yeah, Tobey Maguire might not be perfect. Yeah, the movie might be overtly cheesy, but god damn it, it was the first Spider-Man movie that we got. And we have to appreciate it for what it is. And also, you cannot tell me some of the few Green Goblin scenes are actually creepy as shit. Like, scary as hell. It's Spider-Man. Like, come on. You're welcome, Pat.
All right, Spider-Man moves on. We now have
Wolverine
versus Spider-Man 2. This one is not as hard for me. I'm going to go Spider-Man 2 because Spider-Man 2 is an incredibly well-made film. It is the best of the Raimi films. But by far and away, even though it does have a lot of problems, it is a very, very good movie. Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man 2 is definitely the best of the Raimi films, and I would say it's better made than Spider-Man, but I also want to pick Wolverine because if everyone keeps picking Spider-Man, the last round of this is going to be Spider-Man versus Spider-Man versus Spider-Man. I'm going to be like, I am actually leaving because that is not the best. Because that's not the best that Marvel has to offer us, even in the non-MCU era. I get a little bit tired of Spider-Man fatigue, honestly. So I'm gonna pick Spider-Man 2 because everyone on this bracket is against me, and it's just gonna end up being Spider-Man v Spider-Man v Spider-Man v Spider-Man v Logan.
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with Spider-Man 2 because that actually is like the Raimi movie that I'm like, all right, yeah, I see you.
All right, PJ, where are we going?
The Wolverine.
Okay, Evan.
One is literally one of the best comic book movies of all time. The other is something I fall asleep to while putting on the TV. It's Spider-Man 2.
You don't
I
even get the
love how
TV
Evan
on before you fall asleep.
I
love
sleep
how
with the TV on
everyone,
every night.
like, has opinions where like we like older movies, but if it's Evan that likes the older movies, he's not the boomer. But
Yeah.
like if we like older movies, he's like, okay, newer is better.
Okay.
Sorry, I just had to throw that out there.
Whatever we say.
Hogue.
I'll put up for Wolverine a little bit, but if we're comparing the best film in each franchise, which Spider-Man 2 is, it still has Logan to go against, and that's going to be a more interesting fight. Spider-Man 2.
Who have I not gone? Oh, Robert. Sorry, thought I have gone to you. Sorry, my bad.
I spoke out against the Wolverine already as much as I need to. Spider-Man 2, you know where my allegiances lie in terms of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, so Spider-Man 2.
Alrighty, and Vanessa.
I'm gonna go Spider-Man 2 as well. Like I said, I just recently saw Wolverine last year, so and Spider-Man 2 is the better of the Spider-Man movies as far as Tobey Maguire goes. So Spider-Man 2.
Opening sequence is awesome in the Wolverine, so good. Downhill from there.
All right, this is now where we get interesting. We have the quarterfinals. We are down to the quarterfinals, and this is where we get very, very interesting because some of the films that are going to go up against each other, it could actually start getting very difficult. In our first bracket, we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse versus X-Men First Class. Hogue, I'm going to go with you first. Where are you landing?
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It is as excellent as both of these films are. I think that the balancing act that Into the Spider-Verse does with not only like the messages behind it, kind of like the beautiful like parts of society we don't get to see, let alone in big superhero movies, let alone the comedy, the action, everything about it is great. So that's why I'm really excited to have Hulk be going next and moving forward, because I'm really glad we brought it back. PJ, you're now here seeing this. Hulk is moving forward.
Yeah, clearly.
Into the Spider-Verse.
All right. PJ, I'm going to go to you.
Spider-Verse.
No discussion, not so just Spider-Verse. Okay.
Taylor.
Yeah, for me it's pretty easy. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but I do want to say that, like Pat was saying, it is pretty incredible balancing act with all the characters and stories and all the motivations and everything that they put into this movie, and you really are able to emotionally connect with all of them. But I also want to say just how much of a technical marvel this movie actually is that people don't really talk about, like the animation that they used and the new systems and stuff that they basically had to invent to do all of the things that they wanted to do with this movie. Like I would see Twitter threads of the people who actually worked on this movie talking about what they had to do to achieve the things they wanted to with a film like this that we'd never seen before. And I just think that just blows me out of the water. Like it just had so many characters that were such a breath of fresh air to me. Like we got a version of Gwen that I really loved. Not that I don't like Emma Stone's version, but I really loved what they did with Gwen in this movie. I loved what they did with Octavius in this movie. And I just think it had so much to offer for so many different groups of people from different backgrounds all in one movie.
Yeah. Well, Spider-Man is our first movie on to the semi-finals. The next movie on to the semi-finals is going to be...
Did I vote? I didn't vote.
Did I vote? Shit.
Evan, sorry.
Evan doesn't get to talk anymore.
Evan
Decided.
Sorry, guys. That was my mistake. Evan, where are we?
Oh, don't worry. It's going to be the same outcome.
Yeah, no.
I just wanted to cut out all of the...
I was stressed because I finally realized, like, shit, we finally have some really good movies going against each other. But it's Spider-Verse Week for the one line, "Hey, Liv."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Robert.
It's Spider-Verse. X-Men First Class. or Into the Spider-Verse. Now, the thing is, a lot of pundits always say when it comes to sequels, they shouldn't influence how you feel about the original concept or at least the first film. But Trajectory definitely has a big impact on my feeling for films. And the Spider-Verse, we have yet to explore where it can go. When it comes to X-Men First Class, I know where it went, and it went to shit. So therefore, X-Men First Class is dropped lower in terms of where I want the Spider-Verse to go.
All right, Vanessa.
So I am actually going to pick X-Men First Class. X-Men First Class is my favorite X-Men movie of all the X-Men movies. I just was such intrigued by the story that they created and the fact that they got these two characters to play iconic characters, and it worked. And the music, I love the music from X-Men First Class, and I think that's why it is such a high tier for me. However, I'm not mad that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is going forward because like all of you said, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was such unique storytelling, and the animation that they used was so unique. It just, when watching it in the theater the whole time, I was just in it the whole way. And the music is so good for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as well. So, yeah. But my vote would be for X-Men First Class.
For the first time, Spider-Man has not gotten seven out of 7 votes. So that's going to make it interesting going forward, but it does make it to the semifinals. We now have X-Men Days of Future Past versus Deadpool. PJ, I'm going to start with you.
Days of Future Past. I like Deadpool a lot, but it's Days of Future Past for me.
I am also voting for Days of Future Past because it is the best X-Men movie, bar none.
You're crazy. You're literally crazy.
Maybe First Class. First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past keep going back and forth, but X-Men Days of Future Past is an incredible film, and it is so much better than Deadpool.
I'm voting for Deadpool, so you can go away.
Okay.
No, I had a lot more fun with Deadpool. I've rewatched Deadpool more than once. I had a better theater experience with Deadpool. It's got to be Deadpool.
Hogue, where are you going?
If this is Deadpool's swan song, which we'll see, could not be. I do want to give that movie credit for the amount of heart it has that movie really didn't need to have, as much as it's, meta and we love all that and kind of all the fun wink, wink, nod, nod, giggle, sort of things that it does. Days of Future Past is just more my kind of beat of movie, that big adventure, time travel, especially. Yeah, gonna go with Days of Future Past.
Vanessa.
I'm going with Deadpool. Just like I said before, I do like the road cut way better than the theatrical. And since we're going up against the theatrical version, I'm going Deadpool because I had more fun with Deadpool.
All right, Robert, where are we going?
Days of Future Past, as I've said, it didn't really stick to me in terms of films that I really like. Deadpool, the cast, everybody in the film, the meta humor. I like a little bit more effort when it comes to the intricacies of time travel. And for me, Days of Future Past completely lacked any sort of intricacy. It's also why Deadpool 2 kind of dropped for me, where it's you're kind of lazy with it. I don't really care in terms of what you're doing. Endgame obviously showed you got a little bit more questionability when it comes to how time travel works into that world of conversation. I like to talk about that shit when it comes to a time travel movie. I didn't say shit after freaking Days of Future Past, so Deadpool moves on for me.
All right, Evan, you have the deciding vote.
These brackets consistently kill me. And we've only done 2. This is my favorite X-Men movie versus one of my favorite just individual stories that comic book movies have to tell. Well, as great as Days of Future Past has, I don't think we're going to see a movie and I say original with a lot of asterisks because these are based on old material, but as original as Deadpool was for its time, it's shifting the comic book genre and it still is pushing the narrative towards a direction which I didn't think we would see. Ryan Reynolds is great. For as much as I love Days of Future Past, it's such my movie. The fact that it feels so quick, even though it tells so many good stories throughout it. it's got to be Deadpool. But fuck you guys, like
Wow.
honestly.
Wow.
Days of Future Past and X-Men First Class have
Wow.
both been eliminated.
If First Class had to go, Days of Future Past had to go.
Touche.
Well, all of those have to go too because now X-Men is out, except for X2.
Yeah, except X2. Well, we do no, and we do have. Well, now we have to
Yep,
decide.
we gotta
so,
do it. It's gotta happen. It's gotta happen, you guys.
Logan or X2. PJ.
It's Logan. It's always Logan. It's Logan. It's Logan. It's Logan. God damn it, it's Logan.
I'm gonna go. It's X2. It is X2.
I'm shocked.
It is
I am
X2
shocked and awed
by
that
the
you would.
slimmest of margins.
No, it's
By
not
the-
that slim. You just don't like James Mangold.
By the slimmest of margins, it is X2. Evan, what are you picking?
It's Logan. Newer is always better. Thank you.
Taylor.
It's Logan.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Robert.
The heart is there in Logan. It is definitely emotional, but it is a much smaller story, which Logan did deserve. Wolverine did deserve. But for me, I've been basing it a lot on the excitement and the fun that I had while watching a movie. X2 felt like more of an X-Men movie than any X-Men movie ever to come out, in my opinion. Lady Deathstrike, but the rest of it, Nightcrawler, so incredible. Yes, Brian Cox as Stryker, even though I did like a young Danny Houston or at least Danny Houston as a young Stryker, Brian Cox did a great job as an aged Stryker. So for me, getting into that origin story, it's kind of bookended there with Logan. I got to go X2.
Wow.
I feel like our boy Danny is kind of
Where everyone else's emotions are. This hurts.
This hurts everybody.
This just hurts.
Oh gosh.
All right, Vanessa. Where are we going?
Okay, so I think that Logan was definitely, cinematic masterpiece as far as, bringing a comic book character into a story that you can have with other characters that are not comic book wise. And like, if you eliminated that and it was just a story about a struggling, character going through the motions, it's great. However, I will be going with X2 because I've only seen Logan once in the theaters and I had no passion to go watch it again. So, and I saw X2 twice in theaters. So X2.
Logan is one that I felt like once I watched it once, I didn't need to watch it again. That says something about a movie, but the one you have more fun with is the one you keep going back to check out in the theaters.
Apparently, I'm not on my island by myself. I thought I would be. All right, Hogue, you've got the deciding vote.
There is a moment in Logan that is one of my favorite in filmmaking. And there is a musical sting after a dramatic reveal, after a action scene. Evan, are you going to play I Hurt Myself Today? I don't want to, but I was thinking of going in with that, but it's going to be Logan. X2, fun movie. I think has a lot more flaws than people are willing to admit. Just like in general of like, I don't think that story holds up as well as the ideas behind the story do. Whereas I agree, Logan is much smaller, but it explores every facet of the Wolverine psychology in a way that it feels like a true rated R movie, not because it just has blood and guts and gore, but because the subject material it is talking about and kind of the consequences of these characters failing is so tragic and so kind of harrowing that is a meal of a movie. So I'm going to go with Logan.
All right, Logan makes
Just
it through
barely.
to the semifinals.
Just barely. Oh,
Just
God.
barely.
Oh, no. I'm not ready for this. Oh, God.
2, Spider-Man versus Spider-Man 2. Hey, at least it's only not like all going to be Spider-Man
I
now.
know. There is a God.
Taylor,
Spider-Man 2.
I am also.
The Spider-Man 2 has one of the most talked about, most iconic scenes in any Spider-Man movie ever. And I think we all know exactly what that is without me having to say anything else.
I am just going to say it. The train sequence alone is better than anything in Spider-Man, so Spider-Man 2 gets it. Hogue.
I love me some Spider-Man, but Spider-Man 2 is another level.
PJ?
Look, Spider-Man 2 has the better Bruce Campbell cameo. It's Spider-Man 2.
Vanessa?
It's Spider-Man 2. I think that I like the villains a little bit more in Spider-Man 2. You know, Alfred Molina as Otto Octavius. So good.
Happy to pay the bills, Otto.
So it's Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. So therefore, Spider-Man 2 moves on.
All right. And Evan, you making it a clean sweep? Yep.
Yeah. Meme-orific, my friend.
Took me a second, but yeah, no, that's right. That's accurate.
All right. So, and with that, we are down to one Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, one X-Men, and one X-Men movie, a animated Spider-Man film, and of course, a offshoot comedy. Let's move on to the offshoot comedy. We have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse versus Deadpool. Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
Wow, thank you so much. That's exactly what I wanted.
I'll go if Taylor doesn't want
to. Look, I was so excited to see Deadpool when it came out. Like Robert has talked about, the way that Deadpool came to be with just the fans rallying behind something that we were never supposed to see and just getting it made into this movie that probably shouldn't exist, to be perfectly honest. And I literally had to like sneak out and go with like the one roommate I lived with that wasn't going to yell at me for going to see this movie. And it was a great theater experience with the two of us. But when Jacob and I got to see Into the Spider-Verse like 2 months early or something stupid like that, I was like, the world is not ready for just how phenomenal this movie is. So it as much as I don't want to kick out Ryan Reynolds, it has to be Into the Spider-Verse.
It is without question, without heartache. This is not the hardest one I've had to pick so far today.
No, it's not.
It is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is a far, far superior film and is the only one so far on this list that would ever even get close to being on a decade list. So it is easily Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. PJ?
I mean, I think you underestimate Deadpool not ending up on a decade list. People love this movie, but I mean, for me, it's Spider-Verse.
I think he meant his decade list.
Yeah, well, my decade list, yeah.
Decade list. Yeah.
Vanessa?
So yeah, there is a reason why it won Best Animated at the Oscars, and it's because just the sheer genius that Phil and Lord Miller had on this. So Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse. I do like Deadpool. I think Deadpool's a lot of fun, but I'm giving the edge to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Robert?
If there's one thing I appreciate more than meta humor, it's delicacies when it comes to intricate universes and or time travel. So therefore, Into the Spider-Verse, incorporating a way to utilize multiverses, interdimensional beings coming in to join forces to take down a foe. They did it better. Phil Lord, Chris Miller, the Russo brothers, Dan Harmon, they all know this shit. So when it comes down to it, Into the Spider-Verse, I'm happy to see where they're going to go with it. Deadpool, fantastic. I know where they went with it. Therefore, Into the Spider-Verse moves on.
And Evan, where are you going?
I can't stress enough how much I think Deadpool meant to comic book movies, but even film in general. Because without Deadpool, I don't think we have Logan, and without Deadpool, I don't think we have this meta towards. We're now getting back to a lot of R-rated comedies are doing well, like even Good Boys, for example. And I think this is a lot closer than people give it credit for. Like, I'm dying trying to decide between the two, and it doesn't matter at this point. So I'm gonna give this shot to Deadpool, but Spider-Verse is gonna win this bracket. Like, let's be honest with ourselves.
I had Deadpool before I picked Into the Spider-Verse. I was gonna say Deadpool. It is a lot closer than you think.
Yeah.
I agree.
Hogue?
Close, but no cigar. It's going Into the Spider-Verse.
Makes it into the final. We have our first final pick. Next, we have
God help me.
Logan versus Spider-Man 2.
Oh, shit.
Taylor, I am going to start.
Why?
with
You just started
you.
with me.
Okay, sorry. PJ, I'm going to start with you. That one.
Again,
There we go.
it's Logan. It's always Logan. It's just Logan.
Can I go?
Evan, where are you going?
Look, here's the thing. For as great as Logan is, it kind of falls apart in the third act a little bit. Not too much, but just enough for me to be like, what's happening in this movie? Why are we like, can I fucking go? It's my turn, PJ.
I can still say what?
Get your Yankees head ass out of here. Spider-Man 2 is one of the best films of all time. Sam Raimi really did a mark on comic book movies, and as Scott Mantz would say, it's fucking incredible. That's right, I quoted Scott Mantz. Look, and also just on top of that, Doc Ock is probably one of the best villains we're ever gonna get on screen. His motivation you don't feel for, but you're like, God damn, this guy's fucking insane. Which I think what makes Spider-Man 2 that good, and also just as much as we shit on Tobey Maguire, the writing of that movie, and at least the writing of Peter Parker and how the city gets behind him is so fucking good. It's Spider-Man 2. I'm sorry, Pat.
Vanessa, I'm going to go to you.
Okay. I will say that this is a little bit tougher for me because I do like Logan, and I love Spider-Man 2. Oh my god. I think that I'm going to give the edge to Logan because Logan is kind of the better movie. I do love freaking Alfred Molina as Octavius. Yeah, it's Logan.
Gun to your head. Who's it going to be?
She said Logan.
Logan. I'm so sorry. I love Spider-Man 2, but it is going to be Logan.
Robert, what are we picking?
My favorite James Mangold movie is Identity. Come on, intricacies and mental personality. But when it came to Logan, yeah, it does drop off in the last act. I kind of got bored a little bit in the last act. So when it came down to Spider-Man 2, in it all the way, now we're swinging. We're Spider-Man. Freaking Peter Parker is out on the town. He's doing his thing. We've got Doc Ock running the game, and you leave it more on a cliffhanger when it comes to the new Goblin figuring out who the hell Spider-Man is. Holy shit. And Mary Jane finds out who Spider-Man is. It's just, for my opinion, more on a comic book level of greatness in terms of Logan, which was more graphic novel version of greatness. So therefore, Spider-Man 2 is one that I take home a little bit more than Logan.
All right. Hogue.
This is hard.
Yeah.
This is tough, guys. Yeah, it's just both movies have iconic imagery, iconic moments. The moment I referenced in Logan, that's one of my favorite, is after like the family massacre at the farm and the father falls on the ground and dies, and it pushes in on Logan, and like this horror movie theme just like blares because this is incumbent of despair. That is the most like terrified I've been in like a non-horror movie. The ending to Logan is perfect. As much as the third act does kind of get off to a rocky start, that ending with him and Laura, everything that like with Professor X's death, with the action, just like the time it takes to really live in this offshoot world where like really there's no happiness to be found. It's great. It's like the closest we're going to get to a Last of Us movie. But Spider-Man 2 has that too. It has the surgery scene with the chainsaw. It has the romance of like the Mary Jane running at the end in the big wedding dress. It's willing to go that far and like be goofy. It has Doc Ock, who's one of the most compelling villains. The train scene. It has the darkness. It has J. Jonah Jameson, which we really haven't talked about enough. I'm going with Spider-Man 2.
Taylor.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious where I'm going to go. As much as I appreciate Spider-Man 2 as a movie and the villain it has to offer us, and the fact that I think it has the best moments, really, of a Raimi Spider-Man movie, I've always been a person who is a big defender of Logan and what Logan has to offer. It just felt so different from any even offshoot X-Men movie that we've ever gotten. It was just something that I was so drawn into completely when I saw it. I feel like it's some of the best that we've seen from Hugh Jackman in this character easily. I think the relationship he has with Laura and how it actually ends up becoming something that's important by the end of the movie and really leaves you just kind of emotionally devastated. Like Pat talked about the death scene that we get that's actually feels like it's something we deserve to get when it comes to Professor X. There's just so much in Logan to me that I sat there and went, these are elements that I wanted from this character in a movie like this, and I never thought we were going to get it.
So with that,
what's it gonna be, Jacob?
We already know what Jacob's gonna do.
I don't, and it scares me.
I have no clue, so just say it.
Don't know.
I am fairly well known for the fact that I think Logan is a well-made, enjoyable, good movie, but not amazing one. But it is better than Spider-Man 2.
Son of a bitch!
Spider-Man 2.
What a plot twist!
I get the argument.
Logan is a better movie than Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 has a lot of flaws. It has the best.
I'm shocked.
It can't be.
It has one of the best comic book sequences in the train fight. It has one of the best villains in Alfred Molina. It still has the problems of Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and it has the problems of it not knowing how to actually handle Spider-Man as a character. The way it handles Spider-Man actually annoys me and drives me crazy. I really love that movie, but Spider-Man is really annoying in it. Logan gives us Patrick Stewart, Professor X's death so perfectly and so emotional that it gets nowhere near anything that Spider-Man 2 does. It is Logan. I know PJ just had a heart attack about the fact that I picked Logan, but I told you that I do not hate Logan. Logan is a better movie than Spider-Man 2. Logan makes it through to the final.
Understandable.
I think you broke Pat. I think PJ is broken. I think Pat also. I think both of the Pats might be broken.
I'm actually shocked that you went that way. I really am.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen,
our
final, which was the two that I figured we would get to because they are clearly far and above the two best movies: Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse versus Logan. PJ, I'm going to start with you. Where are you going?
Let's go, Logan.
You know, it's a lot harder than it sounds, actually, Evan, because I really love both these movies very, very dearly, like a lot. Logan makes me cry every single time I watch it. That movie moves me to tears. I love it so, so much. But Into the Spider-Verse not only has a sequel to Shaun of the Dead within the film, it also has a sequel to Clone High within the film in the Times Square sequence. You can see posters for it, and it's wonderful. The performances are amazing. The animation is wonderful. I think it's arguably the best version of Spider-Man that we may ever get on film for so many reasons. And Spidey's my guy. As much as I love Logan, I'm going Into the Spider-Verse.
Ladies and gentlemen, Spider-Verse gets its first vote. Taylor, can I go to you?
I think Evan wants to speak.
Okay, Evan, I will let you speak.
I just want to get this bit out because I have it pulled up. As logic would say, hey, man, what's up, bro? Spider-Man should be black. Yeah, man, Spider-Man should be black. Fuck yeah. Yeah, man. Black Spider-Man.
What?
It's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Those are lyrics.
You let me go to Evan.
He was gonna say it eventually. We might as well bury it now. And then
those are lyrics coming from Logic's Black Spider-Man. The bit afterwards, I think two guys are high as shit, and it finally happened. We got Black Spider-Man.
Coming from you, man, it was
Yeah,
gold.
yeah.
Evan, I want my thank you note back.
But in all seriousness, in all the best ways possible, I do think the flaws still stand with the third Logan, and I do think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is as close to a perfect movie as you can possibly get. The pace keeps up while we literally have arcs for like 6 fucking different characters in one movie, complete arcs too. It is incredible front to back. It pops. The soundtrack is banging. On top of the soundtrack, the score is also really invigorating, very interesting to actually like listen to and dive deeper through. And the character study of Miles Morales and also Peter B. Parker just blows me the fuck away. Spider-Verse.
All right, Taylor.
Yeah, I kind of figured this might be where we ended up, unless Logan ended up getting derailed somewhere. And I think it's rightfully where it should have ended up, even though I was kind of hoping for a more chaotic outcome. Like I was hoping we would have like a Spider-Verse versus like the Punisher or like Blade 2 or just to see what would happen.
I'd have fought Blade 2 to the death.
I know, I was with you, Robert. I was right there with you. But that being said, I definitely think it's a hard choice, but it's also an easy choice in a way, because as much as I love Logan and as it makes me emotional and as much as I appreciate what it has to offer, as soon as we walked out of seeing Spider-Verse for the first time, I was immediately just like, I want to see it again. I want to talk to everyone I know about this movie. I want everyone I know to see this movie so that we can talk about just how brilliant it was to all of the characters that it had to handle, visually, how creative and just stunning and immersive that it was. I think this is the first real animated movie where I felt like I was literally jumping inside of a comic book panel with the way that they use the animation. And I just think it hits all of the right notes. And the day that we actually heard that it was getting nominated for an Academy Award, I went, this is the best timeline. Like this is the greatest thing, because art like that needs to be appreciated. And a lot of the times it gets overlooked. So I think it's even though it breaks my heart for Logan, it's a pretty easy choice for me right now.
All right. Vanessa, I'm going to go to you.
My vote is for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like we've already said before, just kind of going that route. Everything that the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, just kind of thinking in my head, the way that they went with the story that they actually told, killing off Spider-Man as well in a Spider-Man movie, and allowing another character to play Spider-Man, allowing these other characters who are Spider-Man or Spider-Gwen, having them having them all come together, and it just seems very seamless. It just didn't feel like we're just bringing them all together and they're going to be a part of this movie. And the fact that we also have Nicolas Cage playing a Spider-Man as well is so good. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
When it comes to videos on our channel that are the most viewed, one of the top ones is Logan. The use of Hurt by Johnny Cash was by far one of the best implementations for marketing for Logan. Now, when it came to My Love and My Joy, I was listening to Johnny Cash for like a week after that trailer came out. I absolutely loved the aesthetic that they were going for in Logan. But one thing we've also listened to quite a bit ever since then is What's Up Danger from Into the Spider-Verse. When it comes to the music, the soundtrack, the imprint it has on our lives, there was a lot of stumble when it came to X-Men and their franchise. But Logan and X2 for me were kind of the two where it arced together. And I'm like, all right, I enjoyed those two. But when it came to Into the Spider-Verse, there's only one that I could really look towards and say it's crap. And that's Spider-Man 3. When it comes to the rest, it feels great. They've done a good job. Into the Spider-Verse, number one for me.
Hogue, I'm going to you.
Not much to say. It's not hard to choose Into the Spider-Verse over Logan, even though it is hard. But I think that element of kind of balancing all that kind of things, dealing with dark stuff, and still coming up with this like positivity and this like comedic energy throughout. As much as I love Logan, that is a tough watch sometimes. That is that movie can beat you down, and Spider-Verse really just pumps you up in a way that kind of is what a Spider-Man movie should do.
And with that, because my vote is it's Spider-Verse. It's easily far and beyond Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse is one of the best movies Marvel have ever made, even outside the MCU, even within the MCU. Spider-Verse is one of, hands down, the greatest comic book movies ever made. Guys, our winner is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Guys, I want to thank you so much for everyone in the chat, everyone who has joined in, and
the chat has been awesome today. I'm so glad that you guys have jumped in and given your opinions, because I love kind of seeing how everybody feels about these movies, especially the couple that were a bit divisive for all of us. That was great. And even though this ended up kind of where I thought it was going to, I still feel like there were some surprises along the way that were fun to see.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I know that we all expected that these would be the two, but at least it's hard when majority of these movies aren't fantastic. And
haven't aged well,
and these two out of all of them have stood out amongst the rest. Like they have when most people talk about what's the best non-MCU Marvel film, it's normally Spider-Verse. That's the one that everyone says it's the one that transcended, I guess, the genre. I would like to thank all of my guests. PJ Campbell, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PG_Campbell. Of course, you can also find me over at the PJ Campbell Network. We're actually literally jumping over to do our family game night right after this with Bobby Finstock and Tim Franco playing Cards Against Humanity. So the universe is about to implode, and it's going to be awful. And of course, you guys can find me every Friday at Movie House with Ryan Selling.
All right. Thank you so much, PJ, for joining us for this stream. And Evan, where can the good people find you online?
Shout out to me being muted. We love that. Thank you, Jacob. Other than that, I am very excited. I appreciate you guys having me on. I did have a mental collapse, and PJ isn't here anymore. I apologize to PJ for me yelling at him. His movie opinions frustrate me. He knows this. But other than that, you guys can find me here at Evan Degraff Live on Twitter. Funny story, I've been yelled at by my own family for putting butterflies on my fucking profile as a one-day meme, and it really did not pay off. So there's that. And on top of that, again, Family Game Night. Myself and Chris Clark, we host and produce that show. Make sure you guys are there for that. We have Tom Dagnino literally doing Cards Against Humanity. The one man who you think is the most fucked up person in this community, in a good way, not in a bad way, in a good way, doing Cards Against Humanity, you don't want to miss. And also, I did an episode last Tuesday, Famous Last Words, with the two right below me, Robert and Vanessa. They make my job easy. Again, I don't recommend you guys watching this because of me, but literally because of them. They give you guys a how-to-do YouTube tutorial in the best way possible. And the next Tuesday on Famous Last Words, or the one coming up, I have Abby Friel. Her and I are gonna have a really interesting conversation, kind of about a community and fandom, and kind of how to deal with that as you enter a community while still being a fan. So again, thank you guys so much for having me on. I cannot wait for the next one because I still have to make my 30 movies. Peace out, guys.
We'll have an announcement about that in a minute, actually.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan. Robert and Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us. Where can good people find you online?
Check out our Better Late Than Never reactions. We actually went back and did reactions and full reviews for Spider-Man available on our channel, so you guys can hear my love for Spider-Man available there, going back watching the old trailers too. Trailers were crap when it came to the movie itself. But when it comes down to it, you can also do the thing
on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Stardust. Whew, I almost forgot.
All the social networking gin joints, you know where they are.
Yes, and then I also like to point out that the Spider-Man PS4 is amazing as well.
Yeah, that's the quintessential Spider-Man right there. That's a good shit.
That's what I say. That is my absolute favorite version of Spider-Man so far. And one day, for you guys, I'm going to play that game live on this channel and go through the entire thing because I love it very much and I suck at video games.
Have you done the expansion pack? Do that. Yeah. Everybody, I'll watch that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Guys.
Thanks, guys. And Pat, where can the good people find you online?
Hi, kids. You can find me at Instagram. Instagram at Pat the Canadian. I'm getting these directions. Find me on the social media. Twitter is Hogue_filmmaker. I'll at some point get all the same names to consolidate and make it easier. Check out my Vimeo, Patrick Hogue. You'll find all my short films and my latest short film, which is on Crypt TV's YouTube channel. It's almost hit 180,000 views. Excited about it. Got cool stuff in the works with them. Just see my shit, please.
All right. Fair enough. Thank you so much for joining us, Pat, and we will see you next time. And guys, so we have a bit of an announcement to make. In 2 weeks, on the 9th of May, we are going to be doing our next bracket, which is going to be scores of films not done by John Williams. We have a really wonderful panel lined up. We have Pat, Evan, and Kristen Smith from over at Take 3 Productions. She is coming on to join us. And we're going to go through a 32 film bracket. And very much looking forward to this, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, eventually we will do something with John Williams scores, but we felt we should probably do something with the rest of the world's composers first to kind of go through that and appreciate some great film scores. So we're very, very excited to do that one. I hope you guys all tune in for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Really hoping that we get through that one as well. But I think that one's going to be a bit more brutal.
Yeah, I think it might.
This might have been,
so.
Because we could have some very big arguments over that one.
It's going to be a lot of fun, though. So please tune in, you guys. We have so much fun when you watch live with us and give us your opinions, because it really helps get the conversation going as well, seeing what you guys enjoy. We also are going to want to hear from you guys about scores we didn't include next week, because there are a lot of them that miss out. But you guys can find us here on the channel regularly. We do 10 Years On, where we do our 2010s film retrospective, where we talk about movies from 10 years ago.
Yep.
We do the Tupperware of Destiny show, where we do random drafts. We recently did our James Bond random draft, which was a lot of fun.
So if you haven't gone back and had a look at that one, make sure you do go back, actually watch our James Bond random draft, where us and Nick and Peter from over at 10 Years On, we all got together and randomly drew the next James Bond cast. We had male, female, everything.
It was all over the place, and it was fantastic.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you guys who have already checked it out. If you guys want to find us on social media, all our links are down in the description. You can find our Letterboxd accounts down there, where we talk about the movies that we've seen, that we're rewatching. You can see what we want to watch on our watch list. And we also have our Patreon link down there if you want to check out that and donate. Is there anything else we need to cover?
Guys, if you are able to and want to donate to our StreamYard, so our Streamlabs account, it really does help the channel. We can get new gear. We can make this whole thing look even better for you guys, and hopefully give you guys a better looking show. Just the link is down in the description below. And if you are the top donator for the month of April, you will be able to pick one of the brackets going forward that we do, because we're going to try and do this every 2 weeks. Guys, thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. If you want to see us again, 2 weeks, scores and soundtracks. I'm really, really looking forward to that one.
Just scores. We're
not
doing soundtracks yet.
Just scores.
We'll get there, though. We will get there. And we do want you guys to comment with brackets you think we should do in the future, because we're always looking for ideas.
Yes, we absolutely are. Until then, guys, my name is Jacob London, and we will see you next time.
Bye.